Chapter 1681 The Untouchable Eternal Treasure. Quiet Void Battlefield Ruins. Several of Yi Tian's cloned bodies have also become immortal realm level 1 by 1, and the cloned body is stronger, and naturally it can go deeper into the battlefield ruins, and can have more harvests. For example, the Jingshu battlefield is deeper, and he has never entered, because it is densely populated with the power of legendary lords. Previously, with the cultivation base of Juji realm, there was no way to approach it. Once approached, he would be immediately separated by the power of legendary lords. Bombing with time and space. However, now Yi Tian has broken through to the eternal realm and has become the immortal realm lord, and he is also a 3-step immortal realm lord. His strength is much stronger than the ordinary immortal realm, so he has a certain hope to penetrate into the core of the quiet and virtual battlefield here. Go and try it. Yi Tian stepped across many areas of the battlefield ruins, ignoring the dense void fragments and many traces of power. Soon, Yi Tian came to the core area of the quiet void battlefield ruins, and this was a place he couldn't come to before. Boom! The power left behind by the legendary lord spanned time and space to suppress Yi Tian, but Yi Tian still resisted such suppression with his powerful strength. However, there is almost nothingness here. Even if there were many treasures here, they could not withstand the attack of the legendary lord at all. However, Yi Tian still sensed something. That is, quote, Yi Tian sensed a fragment. The fragment seemed to be far away, but it seemed to be very close. Is it a treasure similar to the tree of true Dao marks and that mysterious sword? Yi Tian muttered. Such a treasure, even a legendary lord can't touch it, and he can't touch it at all. But it occurred to him that what was here was just a tiny fragment, maybe he could touch it. So, he forced his way through. Layers of time and space barriers hindered Yi Tian, but Yi Tian, relying on the power of immortality and the powerful will rule power, reached out with one hand, smashed layers of time and space barriers, and finally touched the piece of debris. Boom! Yi Tian grabbed this piece of debris, grabbed it directly, and immediately suppressed this piece of debris with all his strength. After a long time, this piece of fragment was sealed by Yi Tian layer by layer, and it didn't look so special anymore. This is a piece of cyan fragment, about the size of a palm, and it exudes an aura far beyond the legendary level. This fragment is enough to be regarded as the most precious item in this relic world, and it can even be said to be the most precious item in Yi Tian's body other than copying talent. Wow! Yi Tian left here, and immediately found a safe place to carefully comprehend this piece of debris. With the breath of the fragments, Yi Tian's perception passed through the infinite time and space and saw a big bell. It was a big blue bell, full of endless and mysterious patterns, and the breath was enough to destroy everything and suppress endless time and space. Boom! A bell sounded, and through the infinite time and space, it directly shook Yi Tian's duplicate body to crack. Fortunately, this force was relatively weak, so it did not kill Yi Tian's duplicate body. However, Yi Tian still comprehended some information from it. This fragment is the fragment of the Cyan Big Bell. In a battle, the Cyan Big Bell was smashed, and this fragment was left behind. Eternal treasure. Yi Tian slowly spit out these 4 big characters. The Cyan Big Bell is an eternal treasure, such as the eternal source weapon and the holy soldier of nothingness, which is a treasure weapon that is many times stronger. The Yuanai space-time territory has never produced an eternal treasure, so Yi Tian doesn't know much about the eternal treasure. But this time he obtained a lot of inheritance from the ruins, including the introduction of the eternal treasure. The eternal treasure can form an infinite space-time domain. Without a certain strength, it is impossible to touch the eternal treasure, and the eternal treasure can also form a projection. Therefore, sometimes the eternal treasure that you see is not really here, but an endless and far unknown place. In addition, although some special objects are not eternal treasures, they are also similar treasures and can also form similar effects. For example, the true Dao mark tree is obviously not an eternal treasure, but it is a treasure of this level. Yi Tian doesn't know whether the tree without Dao marks and the mysterious sword are really in the space-time territory, or whether it is still a projection, because he has not yet reached that kind of strength and cannot touch the truth. However, the piece in front of him is a true eternal treasure fragment, which is truly held in his hands. The eternal treasure not only has powerful power, but also can have special effects. As for the special effect of this piece of eternal treasure fragment, Yi Tian is still unclear, and he needs to slowly comprehend it before he can know. Time passed slowly. Yi Tian continued to study this piece of eternal treasure fragment, and even made a few mistakes, bursting out the power of the eternal treasure fragment, thus causing the replica body to shatter. But after researching again and again, he still realized the usefulness of this piece of eternal treasure. It has three uses for ETN. The first use is that it can temporarily form a layer of time and space barriers, which can be used to resist other people's attacks, but it consumes a lot of power and can only be used as a trump card. The second use is that it can break any space barriers. For example, it can be used to leave this relic world, and even enter many places without restrictions. The third use is the real chance. Yi Tian was able to comprehend the various applications of the Eternal Space Tao from this fragment, thus creating the Space Legend Eternal Skill, or even a more powerful Eternal Skill. If it is made into a treasure land, it can even allow people to comprehend space eternal skills in such a treasure land. It's a pity that it's only a fragment. If it were an eternal treasure, it would be great. Yi Tian sighed. But if you think about it carefully, if it is a complete eternal treasure, he can't take it away. In the days that followed, Yi Tian became familiar with this piece of eternal treasure. After a long time, Yi Tian was ready to leave this ruined world. So, he mobilized this piece of eternal treasure, directly tore the barrier of the ruins world, melted a crack, and easily left the ruins world. He can actually go out through some other cracks, but there must be many traps set up by the Void Beast, and there may even be a fifth-order Void Beast to attack him. But now that he suddenly opened up a crack and rushed out of the ruins world, it would definitely go beyond the expectations of those nihilistic beasts, so he would have time to break through and leave. Yi Tian's name replicates his body, and he carries a piece of the eternal treasure. As soon as he left the world of ruins, Yi Tian's cloned body shuttled at an extremely fast speed, and performed endlessly. Boom! That fifth-order nihilistic beast shot, chasing and killing Yi Tian. Along the way, Yi Tian kept attacking and blocking his nihilistic beast, showing a powerful immortal realm combat power. The fifth-order nihilistic beast was bombarded with one blow. Yi Tian resisted it with the will defense eternal skill in the nihilistic real body, so he was not killed in seconds but he was also severely injured. Quote, "How is this ability a bit like the ability of my family?" The fifth-order void beast is extremely puzzled. But Yi Tian was obviously not a phantom beast, so it didn't keep his hands. Yi Tian didn't have the idea of fighting against the fifth-order nihilistic beast at all, he just kept running away, escaping far away at all costs. But in the end, the replica body was killed. But all this was expected by Yi Tian. After killing Yi Tian's duplicate body, the fifth-order nihilistic beast left, apparently thinking that Yi Tian was no longer in that ruined world. And this area has also recovered tranquility, and what the fifth-order nihilistic beast doesn't know is that another copy body that Yi Tian has been staying in this area has appeared, and it has come to an area on Yi Tian's escape route. Oh Mao! A small void area cracked, and a void ball was called out. Yi Tian directly took this void ball away and disappeared. His real purpose for letting a cloned body leave the ruined world this time is not to escape, but to clone the body. It doesn't matter, there is no need to run away. The copying body in the outside world lacks resources, and there is no way to continue to condense the copying body. It is impossible to copy the body of the void beast to hunt other void beasts. Therefore, he had to send out a large amount of resources collected in the ruins world. Just now, the fifth-order void beast was only chasing and killing Yi Tian, and Yi Tian deliberately covered it up, hiding this void ball. Now that the resources are in hand, he only needs to leave a replica body in the ruins world to comprehend the eternal treasure fragment. Other replica bodies can be condensed in the outside world and plan to hunt and kill the void beast. This is his real perfect plan. Chapter 1682. The combat power is second only to the legendary lord. Copy. Yi Tian spent some resources and copied the body of a third-order void beast. At that time, he can completely hide a duplicate body in the body of a third-order void beast, thus hunting other void beasts, and can easily avoid the tracking of other void beasts. Moreover, Yi Tian can also change the body of the void beast again and again, even the fifth-order void beast cannot find his existence. In this way, he can hunt and kill a large number of nihilistic beasts in a short period of time. Somewhere in the void, a first-order void beast was wandering aimlessly, and suddenly a third-order void beast appeared. This third-order void beast is Yi Tian. The first-order nihilistic beast saw the third-order nihilistic beast, and conveyed an emotion of awe, and immediately prepared to avoid it silently. But at this moment, the third-order nihilistic beast copied by Yi Tian immediately attacked the first-order nihilistic beast, and at the same time, the copied body also shuttled out of the third-order nihilistic beast, and used the eternal skill of will to attack the first three-tier void beast. Almost in an instant, this first-order nihilistic beast was instantly killed by Yi Tian. Then, Yi Tian put away the corpse of the first-order void beast and entered the body of the third-order void beast again. In the days that followed, Yi Tian used this method to kill many first-order nihilistic beasts, and even occasionally attacked second-order nihilistic beasts, but he was never caught. Tier Void Beast. After hunting and killing many illusory beasts, Yi Tian prepared to rest for a while, and extracted the materials of these illusory beasts to improve the fusion of will and body. After the materials were used up, he would continue to hunt and kill illusory beasts. With the passage of time, Yi Tian's will and body have become more and more integrated. However, the first-order nihilistic beast is not very helpful to Yi Tian. If he enters the 4-step Immortal Lord level, the first-order nihilistic beast is probably useless, and he can only use the second-order or even the third-order Void Beast. After a long time, Yi Tian's Void Beast materials were all exhausted. So on this day, he began to hunt the Void Beast again. At this time, the 5th-order nihilistic beasts clearly know that there are strong people hunting nihilistic beasts, but they have nothing to do. At the beginning, they could not care too much about such losses, but with the fall of a large number of second-order nihilistic beasts, they began to panic. And Yi Tian immediately changed to another third-order nothingness beast whenever the third-order nothingness beast was exposed. After a long time, the 5th-order nihilistic beast even suspected that many third-order nihilistic beasts participated in this kind of hunting, and in the end, he could not restrain his own subordinates, let all his subordinates gather, and not go out without permission. In this way, Yi Tian really has no way to continue hunting. But, hunting is not allowed here, but the void area is not only these void beasts, but also other void beasts. Therefore, Yi Tian will not be short of nothingness beast materials at all. Eternal years have passed, and Yi Tian's strength has become stronger and stronger. After 300 eternity years, Yi Tian's will and body have already reached 60%, and at this time, even the second-order nihilistic beast is useless to him. The cultivation base has reached the realm of the 6th-step Immortal Lord, but his real strength is probably stronger than that of the 9th-step Immortal Lord. Because Yi Tian created 2 top legendary eternal skills with the help of the eternal treasure fragments. One is the Void Step, which can make him cross the distant void area in an instant, fearing that even the legendary lord is not as fast as him. This is a high-level application of the eternal space Tao. Without that piece of eternal treasure fragment, it would be difficult for Yi Tian to create such top-notch legendary eternal skills. The second legendary eternal skill is the Billion-fold Void. This is a space legendary eternal skill that involves will. It creates billions of worms to suppress the enemy. If the enemy's strength is weak, it will be smashed into nothingness. In order to create these 2 legendary eternal skills, Yi Tian spent 300 eternal years. This is still with the help of the eternal treasure fragment. If he was himself, he would not be able to create such legendary eternal skills. One can imagine how powerful these 2 legendary eternal skills are, far exceeding ordinary legendary eternal skills. With these 2 top legendary eternal skills, plus other legendary eternal skills and a large number of will eternal skills, even if the cultivation base has only reached the 6th-step Immortal Realm Lord, it is far beyond other Immortal Realm Lords. Many Immortal Lords may not even know 1 legendary eternal skill, or only 1 or 2. In the Yuan space-time territory, my strength is probably second only to the 6 legendary lords. Yi Tian muttered. This day, Yi Tian is ready to leave the depths of the void area, there is no need to stay here. The first and second order emptiness beasts are of little use to him, and if he wants to kill the third order emptiness beast, he can't do it in an instant, and if the third order emptiness beast is given time, the 5th order emptiness will come. Therefore, he is not going to continue to hunt the void beast. Even if relying on the material of the void beast can improve the fusion of the will and the body, it is difficult to use the material of the void beast to impact the realm of the legendary lord. The 6 legendary lords of the space-time territory definitely did not rely on the material of the void beast to break through. There are still many unknown opportunities in the space-time territory, some of which are not necessarily lower than those of the void beast. This day, Yi Tian's duplicate body in the ruins world rushed out of the ruins world, and other nothingness beasts couldn't stop it at all. Afterwards, this duplicate body hid in the body of a third-order void beast, avoiding the pursuit of the 5th-order void beast. Then, this third-order nihilistic beast took Yi Tian to keep away from this area and shuttled towards the Origin Sea space-time territory. I saw Yi Tian perform the void step. His body crossed the distant void area, and soon returned to the space-time territory, and successfully brought back the piece of eternal treasure. Dark Forbidden Area. Yi Tian put the eternal treasure fragments here, and used the eternal treasure fragments to create a treasure space. Only the true core members of the human race have the opportunity to enter here to cultivate, and his body has always guarded here, using the eternal treasure fragments all the time. Practice. He didn't want to carry such a piece of eternal treasure on his cloned body. If it fell in the space-time territory or other treasures, wouldn't the piece of eternal treasure be lost? Therefore, it is undoubtedly the safest way to place such eternal treasure fragments in the dark forbidden area. This day, Yi Tian is going to choose a space-time territory as his own territory in the space-time territory. After all, the human race will give birth to a half-step eternal realm or extreme realm, and it can also be brought into the space-time territory to practice, so there must be a space-time territory of his own. After all, any lord of the space-time territory has his own space-time territory, and he has become the lord of the immortal realm. If there is no space-time territory of his own, it would be too strange. Chapter 1683 Territory Selection, Bloody Territory. There are many territories in the space-time territory that are unowned. Any lord can occupy it, and will be recognized by the Lord Alliance. But if you are not a lord, you can only occupy this place, but you cannot claim to be a lord. If there are other lords occupying this place, you must let it go. This is the rule of the Lord Alliance. Territories are good and bad. Some territories are born with more resources, and some territories are born with less resources. What Yi Tian most hopes to occupy is the eternal space-time territory, and the value of the eternal space-time territory far exceeds the general space-time territory. For the ordinary eternal realm, the eternal time and space territory is a great opportunity. For example, when Yuan I gave birth to the golden sea tree of eternal knowledge, there are so many fights for the eternal realm, that is, the sea tree of eternal knowledge can make an ordinary territory evolve into an eternal space-time territory in a certain period of time. In the end, the golden sea tree of eternal knowledge was taken away by the Lord of the Void Sword. It is a pity that there is no extra eternal space-time territory in the current space-time territory. In addition, the Void Beast material can enhance the fusion of will and body, resulting in some eternal lords in the half-immortal realm breaking the shackles and being promoted to the immortal realm. Today, there are still a few immortals who do not have the eternal time and space territory. Yi Tian can snatch other people's eternal space-time territory, but once he does, he will become the target of public criticism. Then occupy a time-space territory with rich resources, and then slowly find a way to evolve it into an eternal time-space territory land. Yi Tian muttered. Afterwards, he began to investigate the situation of each space-time territory and chose a better one. However, the better time and space territories have been picked up by those eternal realms, and the remaining time and space territories must not be very good. This day, Yi Tian came to the space-time domain of the Stargazing Lord, the Stargazing Domain. This is a territory that the Stargazing Lord occupied a long time ago. It is not bad, and no other eternal realm will come to choose the Stargazing territory, otherwise it will offend him, because it has always been in a state of no owner. Until he broke through to the eternal realm before, the territory was designated as the Stargazing territory. Lord Endless, welcome to my territory as a guest. The Stargazing Lord personally came forward and welcomed Yi Tian into the Stargazing territory. In the huge palace, the two sat in the void and chatted. Unexpected, Yi Tian asked, Lord Stargazing, I'm here to ask, there are too many territories in the space-time territory, not to mention endless, but they are also hundreds of millions. I want to choose a good space-time territory, but I've been unsure. Idea. 1. The Stargazing Lord smiled and said, The Endless Lord, there are really not many good territories now. Unless a territory of great value is suddenly born, you can only choose a territory that looks okay. Moreover, every territory has its own characteristics, and may be of little value to other eternal realms, but it is of great value to some eternal realms. For example, my Stargazing territory contains more kendo rules and is suitable for practicing kendo, so I chose this place. Quote. Actually, I want to choose a space-time territory with more resources, or a space-time territory with huge potential. Yi Tian expressed his thoughts. Endless Lord, the space-time territory that can give birth to a lot of resources has always been very popular. Last time our time-space territory fell a lot of eternal realms, but the Lord Alliance stipulates that once the eternal realm falls, its territory will be inherited by his relatives. If a new eternal realm is born in the eternal years, you can completely inherit the territory. If there is no such rule, you can directly occupy a territory with rich resources, but the Lord has fallen. The Stargazing Lord said. Forget it, that's a bit too much. Yi Tian waved his hand, not having such a thought. The Stargazing Lord pondered for a while and said, The Endless Lord, there is a space-time territory that is very mysterious, and there are a lot of resources but no one has dared to refine it into his own territory. 1. Oh, which territory? Yi Tian was curious. Blood and Bone Territory, said the stargazing lord. Blood and Bone Territory. Yi Tian had vaguely heard of this name, but there were too many territories in the space-time territory, and he usually practiced often, so he didn't know it very well. At this time, the stargazing lord introduced, Blood and Bone Territory is famous for one sea and one mountain in the space-time territory, but few eternal realms enter the Blood and Bone Territory. One sea in the Blood and Bone Territory refers to the Black Sea, and one mountain refers to the Purple Mountain. The Black Sea is formed by the blood of an unknown creature, which is likely to be comparable to the level of a legendary lord, or even stronger than a legendary lord. And Zishan is formed by the bones of an unknown creature. The Black Sea gave birth to black-scaled beasts. This kind of creature is an important resource for the supreme or the ordinary half-step eternal realm, while the Bone Mountain will produce various ore veins, all of which are of great value. For flowers, then why didn't the Lord refine it into a territory? Yi Tian wondered. Because the Blood and Bone Territory will produce a special blood-colored power every once in a while. This kind of power is unbearable even for the general eternal realm. Although it will not fall, it will be very painful. Moreover, the resources of the Black Sea and the Blood and Bone Territory are unbearable. Mining is also more troublesome. The immortal realm does not look down on such a territory, and the general eternal realm does not dare to refine it. Of course, the real reason is not the case. After all, a territory with such abundant resources must be moved. 1. The real trouble is that there is an ancient black-scaled beast sleeping in the Black Sea, and the opponent's strength is afraid that it has reached the immortal realm. It is precisely because of this unknown creature of the immortal realm that many eternal realms dare not rush to mine resources. There will be some half-step eternal realm to enter the mining resources, but they dare not stay for too long, because the unknown blood-colored power has almost no effect. There are rules. There is speculation from the eternal realm that if the black-scaled beast is beheaded, the blood-colored power may be eliminated and the territory will return to normal. However, the eternal realm under the Lord of the immortal realm does not dare to go to the trouble of the black-scaled beast. Far less. Therefore, the problem of the Blood and Bone Territory has not been solved. Quote, Before, I paid attention to the Bloody Bone Territory, but thinking about it carefully, the resources of the Bloody Bone Territory can't improve my strength, and I still prefer the Stargazing Territory. So, I gave up the Bloody Bone Territory. Endless. Lord, your strength is much stronger than mine now, maybe you can try it, in case the Black Scale Beast is solved, and the Blood Force is solved. In terms of quantity, the potential of this territory is probably very extraordinary. After Lord Stargazing finished speaking, Yi Tian began to ponder. It has to be said that the Blood and Bone Territory does meet his requirements, but the Blood and Bone Territory is still a little troublesome and needs to be dealt with. The black-scaled beast obviously has no wisdom and cannot be regarded as the Lord of the Eternal Realm. Otherwise, it would refine the Blood and Bone Territory by itself. The Alliance of Lords will not stop the beheading of such black-scaled beasts. Choose the Blood and Bone Territory. Yi Tian decided. Chapter 1684 Refine the territory and become a lord. Blood and Bone Territory. After Yi Tian separated from the Stargazing Lord, he went straight here and came to the void area outside the Blood and Bone Territory. At this time, his eyes passed through the space-time barriers of the Blood and Bone Territory, and saw the interior of the Blood and Bone Territory. He saw some half-step eternal realms, and he was slowly collecting resources in the Blood and Bone Territory. The Blood-Bone Territory is rich in resources, and even if it is dangerous, there are still many half-step eternal realms willing to enter here to take risks. This seat is the Endless Lord, who is about to clean the Blood and Bones Territory. In order to prevent it from affecting you, I will leave the Blood and Bones Territory immediately. Yi Tian's voice was introduced into the Blood and Bone Territory, and was heard by many half-step eternal realms. Immediately, some half-step Eternals left the Blood-Bone Territory, but there were still very few half-step Eternals who did not leave. For those who are unwilling to leave, Yi Tian no longer discourages them. Once any special changes are caused during the battle, or it affects them, August 43, making them fall and die, that is their own choice. Wow! Yi Tian entered the Blood and Bone Territory and went straight to the Black Sea. Boom! A large number of black-scaled beasts sensed Yi Tian's arrival and attacked them one by one. These black-scaled beasts have different levels of strength. There are black-scaled beasts that are comparable to the Supreme, and there are black-scaled beasts that are comparable to the half-step eternal realm, but the black-scaled beast that is comparable to the immortal realm has not appeared and is still in the depths of the Black Sea. Asleep. Die. Yi Tian spit out a word, and the large number of black-scaled beasts turned into corpses, one by one fell into the Black Sea, and the Black Sea within the bounds of hundreds of millions was instantly dead. At the same time, Yi Tian unleashed the legendary eternal skill, will slashing illusory sword, and slashed the black-scaled beast sleeping in the depths of the Black Sea with one sword. Puff! This legendary eternal skill of will directly slashed at the opponent's body, and even wiped out part of the opponent's consciousness. DFL. The immortal realm black-scaled beast screamed and woke up from its slumber. Immediately, the entire Black Sea was boiling, and even the blood-bone territory shook, and a blood-colored force swept across the blood-bone territory. Those half-step eternal realms still stranded in the blood and bone territory were eroded by these blood-colored forces, and immediately turned into corpses, one by one fell to their deaths. Only a few powerful half-step eternal realms used some secret treasures to barely save their lives and escape in time. Out. Comparable to the four-step immortal lord. Yi Tian really understood the strength of this black-scaled beast and was not worried at all. Next, he used his true body of nothingness and his willpower to make himself invincible, and he used various legendary eternal skills to attack again and again, making this immortal black-scaled beast unable to resist at all. When the immortal realm black-scaled beast was seriously injured, Yi Tian unleashed his top legendary eternal skill, Billion Void. Layer after layer of void began to superimpose and suppress the immortal realm black-scale beast, as if the endless void was compressed into a layer. In the blink of an eye, the immortal realm black-scaled beast was completely suppressed into countless fragments, and countless body particles lost their vitality. Such an immortal realm black-scaled beast was instantly killed by Yi Tian in one move. After killing this black-scaled beast, the greatest threat to the bloody bone territory was gone, but Yi Tian still needed to understand where the bloody power came from. He could feel that although the black-scaled beast had some relationship with the blood-colored power, the blood-colored power was not displayed by the black-scaled beast. Deep in the Black Sea, Yi Tian came here, and his will is constantly exploring here. Soon, his will detected a red mountain range. This red mountain range is an underwater mountain range, but it is not very large. In fact, this is not a real sea mountain, but a skeleton. More importantly, this bone still has a touch of vitality. Yi Tian approached this skeleton and felt a terrifying pressure, which must be a skeleton of a legendary lord-level creature. When Yi Tian touched this bone, a scarlet force rushed in, but it was blocked by Yi Tian's willpower. But even so, Yi Tian was still impacted, but he was not injured. The blood-colored power of the blood-bone territory should come from it. Yi Tian thought to himself. After his observation, he found that this skeleton was almost connected to the blood and bone territory, and it was somewhat difficult to separate it from the blood and bone territory. In other words, the source of blood and bone power is this bone. If it is stripped away, even if the blood and bone territory can exist, it will become an extremely ordinary territory and it is almost worthless. In the following years, Yi Tian began to study this legendary lord biological skeleton that still exudes some vitality. He didn't want that blood-colored power to erupt frequently, otherwise the blood-bone territory would not be suitable for cultivation, and he wouldn't dare to bring the half-step eternal realm of the human race here. After a long period of research, Yi Tian discovered that the bone power was too strong, and the blood-bone territory could not absorb this power in time, causing the power to escape. Currently, Yi Tian has two ways to get rid of this situation. The first way is to arrange a large array to absorb the bone power, so that the shock wave of blood-colored power will not be formed. The second way is to upgrade the blood-bone territory to the eternal space-time territory. Such a blood and bone territory needs to be upgraded, and it will increase the absorption of bone strength, thereby completely solving this trouble. Therefore, the second method is the most suitable. Just use the second method. Yi Tian decided. However, it is slightly more difficult to promote a space-time territory like the blood-bone territory to an eternal space-time territory, and it is more difficult than other time-space territories. However, he is the lord of the immortal realm. If he refines the blood and bone territory, he can speed up the evolution of the blood and bone territory. Just like some immortal lords, after occupying a space-time territory, even if there is no treasure to promote the space-time territory, after countless eternal years, the space-time territory will slowly evolve into the eternal space-time territory. This is the feedback given to the space-time territory by the Lord of the Immortal Realm. For example, Yi Tian made a breakthrough in the Dark Force, and now the Dark Forbidden area has been expanding. For example, although the speed of expansion has slowed down many times, it is still slowly getting bigger. This day, Yi Tian began to refine the blood and bone territory. The way the eternal realm refines the space-time territory is to refine the innate eternal rules in the space-time territory with its own innate eternal rules, thus completely banning the innate eternal rules here, and refining the origin of the space-time territory following 5.8, becoming a lord. Boom. The innate eternal rules of the blood and bone territory can't compete with an immortal lord at all, and Yi Tian has easily refined the innate eternal rules here. Soon, Yi Tian's innate eternal power eroded the origin of the blood and bone territory, and began to refine the origin of the blood and bone territory. With the passage of time, the blood-bone territory was gradually refined by Yi Tian. Finally, on this day, the blood-bone territory completely became Yi Tian's territory. He became the lord of the blood and bone territory. Afterwards, he reported the fact that the blood-bone territory became his own territory to the Alliance of Lords, declaring the ownership of this place. That is to say, after today, any half-step eternal realm is not allowed to enter the blood-bone territory to mine resources privately, and the resources here will belong to Yi Tian from now on. Chapter 1685 The Deal with Lord Ice Letter. Yi Tian became the lord of the blood-bone territory, and naturally wanted to evolve it into an eternal time and space territory. In this way, it is worthy of his strength and movement technique, and a lot of resources can be born. After all, compared with the eternal space-time territory, the ordinary space-time territory is far inferior in terms of size and cultivation environment, and the eternal space-time territory is suitable for the cultivation of the immortal realm lord. At this time, Yi Tian cultivated in the blood and bone territory, and he could even absorb the source energy of the Yuanai and feed back the blood and bone territory. This was one of the abilities of the immortal realm lord. If this continues for countless eternal years, the blood and bone territory will really evolve into the eternal space-time territory. However, Yi Tian didn't want to wait that long. He is going to trade a treasure with other immortal lords to promote the evolution of the blood-bone territory. For ordinary eternal realm, such treasures must be extremely precious, but for those top immortal realm lords, it is not too precious. After all, an eternal realm lord can only refine one time and space territory, so it is useless to have extra treasures of this kind, and they cannot increase their actual strength, so they can be traded. Eternal space-time territory, extremely ice territory. This is the territory of Lord Binghan, one of the 6 chiefs. This territory is hundreds of thousands of times larger than the territory of blood and bones. At the same time, it was also used by Lord Binghan as a trading place for the Lord Alliance. Many eternal realms you can enter the ice giant city here to trade. There is a legendary lord guarding it, so no eternity will mess up here. This day, Yi Tian came to the extreme ice territory and entered the extreme ice giant city. Many eternal realm lords have opened shops here, and a half-step eternal realm is the shopkeeper to manage the shops here, and even some immortal realm lords let ordinary eternal life realm lords manage the shops here, so it is very lively here. However, few immortal realm lords usually come here to buy things. After Yi Tian entered the extreme ice giant city, he did not enter those shops, because there was no way he could have what he needed here. He went directly to the extreme ice pavilion in the extreme ice giant city. Only realm lords or half-step immortal realm lords are eligible to enter here. After every lord above the half-step immortal realm enters here, he can look at the acquisition information and the purchase information published here, which is equivalent to giving a half-step immortal realm and above powerhouses a fair and just trading platform. After entering the extreme ice pavilion, Yi Tian browsed through the various acquisition tasks and purchase tasks here, and there are also several purchase tasks here. Obviously, in recent years, there have been many people who have been promoted to immortal realm lords, or some half-step eternal realm also hope to obtain an eternal time and space territory. It's a pity that the golden sea tree of eternal knowledge was snatched away by the void sword lord, and he has already used it. Otherwise, it can be traded from him. Yi Tian thought to himself. Subsequently, Yi Tian posted a purchase message and proposed his own chips. If the chips are not enough, even if other immortal lords possess such treasures, they will not trade them. Ordinary treasures can't attract those immortal lords, so Yi Tian is going to come up with a treasure that will make many immortal lords excited. The inheritance of the secret art that integrates the will and the innate eternal rules. In the space-time territory, many eternal realms believe that the will and the innate eternal rules cannot be integrated. Once such a secret technique appears, it will inevitably cause a sensation. Certainly, there is no way to cultivate such a secret technique, because it is not suitable for the space-time territory, and can only be used as a reference. But even so, the value of such a secret technique is very high. Then, Yi Tian immediately released the purchase task, and once the purchase task was released, it would be sent to all the members of the Extreme Ice Pavilion. Not long after, 3 Eternal Realms contacted Yi Tian. 2 Immortal Lords, 1 Legendary Lord. Lord Ice Letter, she actually contacted me. Yi Tian was a little surprised by the contact with Lord Binghan. After thinking about it carefully, he met and talked with Lord Binghan first. After all, the treasures that can promote the promotion of ordinary space-time territories are not precious to Lord Binghan at all, so the asking price will not be too high. And other immortal lords may offer very high prices, such secret techniques may not be fully redeemable, and may even put forward other conditions. Therefore, what he wants most is to trade with Lord Ice Letter. The highest floor of the Extreme Ice Pavilion. Yi Tian and Lord Binghan came here. This is not the first time Yi Tian has seen Lord Binghan, but it is the first time to exchange. The 6-step Immortal Lord, the Endless Lord's cultivation speed is really fast. I remember that the Endless Lord just broke through to the Eternal Realm not long ago. I didn't expect to enter the 6-step Immortal Lord realm so quickly, said with surprise. It's just a chance, Yi Tian said modestly. Soon, the two talked about the topic. Lord Binghan said, Lord Endless, you have the inheritance of a secret technique that fuses well with the innate eternal rules. You can't practice such secret techniques, right? 1. Yi Tian said truthfully. Yes, that kind of secret technique cannot be cultivated, but it can be used as a reference, so the value is still great. He knew that Lord Binghan must have obtained a similar inheritance, otherwise it would be impossible to ask such a question. He can obtain such inheritance, and it is not surprising that Lord Binghan, as a legendary lord, has obtained such inheritance. Yes, I can learn from it, but I need to browse it first to confirm the authenticity. If it is true, I can trade with you and give you a treasure that can make the space-time territory evolve into the eternal space-time territory. Binghan Lord Road. At this time, Yi Tian handed over the inheritance he obtained from the Jingshu battlefield ruins to Lord Binghan. Of course, the inheritance he gave was not complete. After all, the formal transaction had not yet started, so naturally he would not give a complete inheritance. Lord Binghan browsed and confirmed the authenticity. It is indeed a real inheritance, and it is an inheritance that I do not have, but such an inheritance cannot be cultivated. In fact, it is of no value to the general eternal realm. I need an inheritance like the 5 doors. Lord Binghan demanded. 5 inheritances, no problem. Yi Tian immediately took out the 5 inheritances, this time the complete inheritance. When Lord Binghan saw that Yi Tian had really brought out the 5 inheritances, he took out a stone tablet from his own void ball, very big. This is a monument made in heaven. Integrating it into the origin of the space-time territory can promote the evolution of the space-time territory. In addition, it can also enhance the defense of the space-time territory. Lord Binghan said. Okay, let's trade. Yi Tian exchanged items with Lord Binghan, and the transaction was officially completed. After the transaction was completed, Lord Binghan smiled suddenly. Lord Endless, I want to be with you. Chapter 1686 Montenegro Prison, Immortal Prisoner, Legendary Prisoner. What deal? 1 inch. Yi Tian was a little curious, but also a little looking forward to it. Lord Binghan said, Lord Endless, you have acquired these inheritances, probably from a certain ruin. I want to know the location of that ruin. Location of the ruins. Yi Tian knew what Lord Binghan thought, which ruins he wanted to go to get some benefits, but there were actually no treasures left in that ruins, at least he didn't find any treasures. So, Yi Tian said, Lord Binghan, that relic has no resources, it is just a battlefield world, it is almost full of ruins, there are only some corpse fragments and building fragments of the eternal realm, I only found some useless inheritance in it. After all, such relics are of little value. Even so, does Lord Ice Letter still trade this piece of information? Yes, even if it's just the ruins, I want to go and see it. Lord Ice Letter nodded. Then what can I get? Yi Tian asked. Lord Binghan pondered for a while, then said, Lord Endless, I get information from here, and I will naturally give you a piece of information, such as the location of another relic, and that relic still has some opportunities, which is very helpful to the Lord of Immortal Realm. Great value, the Immortal Realm Lord may get a lot of opportunities to enter it. Okay, I'm willing to trade. Yi Tian agreed. Immediately, Yi Tian informed Lord Binghan of the location of the Quiet Void Ruins world, and explained some of the situation there. It's actually in the Void Beast territory. Lord Binghan was dumbfounded. She thought the ruins were in a strange void area far away from the source sea and the space-time territory, but she didn't expect it to be in the void beast territory. She stared at Yi Tian carefully and took a serious look. It is difficult for her to think how Yi Tian ran there, because there are fifth-order nihilistic beasts there, and the Lord of the Immortal Realm has no hope of entering the ruins, unless it is to condense a body of avatars to test, but who dares to waste so many resources condensing one after another? The price to pay is too great. However, for her, she is not afraid of the fifth-order nihilistic beast. She can completely break into that ruined world, and the fifth-order nihilistic beast cannot stop her, unless she is mobilized to kill her, but the nihilistic beast cannot know the situation in advance, and this situation hardly exists. Lord Binghan also did not break his promise and informed Yi Tian of another ruin. After completing the transaction, Yi Tian left Jibing Pavilion. Afterwards, he prepared to go to the ruins that Lord Ice Letter told him. That relic is not in the space-time territory, otherwise, it would have been hidden for a long time, and almost all of the Eternal Realm would know about it. However, the ruins are not far from the space-time territory, but the void area is too large and boundless, and the Eternal Realm is not suitable for the environment of the void area, and there are no rules here, so the detection range will not be very wide, which is as a result, a ruin is in the void area, and it is difficult to find the Eternal Realm. If there is no specific location, Yi Tian will not be able to find the ruins. Afterwards, Yi Tian went to the ruins alone, without telling other Eternal Realms. As for what the ruins are, and what dangers there are, Yi Tian doesn't know at all, but at most he has lost a duplicate body, so he doesn't care at all. Soon, Yi Tian entered the void area, and performed the void step, shuttled through the void area at an extremely fast speed, and quickly arrived at the location of the ruins. Somewhere in the void area, a black continent is suspended here, but if you don't get close to here, you will perceive from a distance that there is nothing here, and there is no trace of any continent at all. When Yi Tian approached this continent, the surrounding void was twisted, and strands of innate eternal rules appeared, and immediately stepped on this black continent. Reversing time and space, this black continent is not easy. Yi Tian muttered. He looked around, and felt the power around him, as if he was bound by layers of time and space. Every point of perception extended, it had to shatter layers of time and space. He punched the void lightly, causing only faint ripples. Obviously, the suppression of time and space and all things here has reached a terrifying level. Whoa. Yi Tian traveled a certain distance in one step, and soon came to a black mountain range in the middle of the black continent, and within this black mountain range there were black mountains, and each black mountain looked quite strange. When Yi Tian approached Montenegro and saw the simple stone monuments in every Montenegro, he realized that this place is not Montenegro at all, but prisons. Every Montenegro is a prison that binds the enemy, and it is precisely because of this that the restraint and suppression of foreign objects is so powerful, and the Black Mountain is the most terrifying seal, suppressing the enemy so that the enemy will never be born. Yi Tian has no way of knowing which power arrangement this is, but he soon knew the meaning of the words of Lord Bingxin. This is also a place of opportunity for the Lord of Immortal Realm, and he can get some opportunities, and the opportunities are in these prisons. Enemy. Lord Kashui, the Lord of the three-step Immortal Realm, once assassinated an Immortal Realm in the war, which led to the defeat of the war situation, suppressing the infinite years here, for the disciples of Moshan to hone the eternal skills, and the disciples of the Lord of the Immortal Realm can enter it, the strength will be suppressed to the same level as the Lord Kashui, and the Lord Kashui cannot be killed, otherwise the contribution points will be deducted. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Lord Chenming, Lord of Six-Step Immortal Realm, betrayed Moshan and was a traitor of Moshan. He was suppressed here, for Moshan disciples to hone eternal skills, Immortal Realm Lord disciples can enter. The Blood Vault Lord, the one-step legendary realm lord, who once attacked and killed Moshan disciples, was captured here, suppressed for countless years, and used for Moshan disciples to temper the eternal level, and the legendary realm lords can enter it. Yi Tian was extremely surprised when he saw the information recorded on the stone tablets. The people who were suppressed and imprisoned here were all lords above the Immortal Realm, and there were even more than one legendary realm lord. Even the lord of the legendary realm can be imprisoned, which shows how powerful the so-called Moshan is, but now the Moshan may have fallen, or else this place will not become a relic, so far money is good, there is no so-called Moshan. Mountain power. Quote. Moshan doesn't allow the disciples to kill these prisoners, but now Moshan doesn't exist, so I can kill these prisoners. If I kill them, I can get their resources and treasures, which should be the chance that Lord Ice Letter said, but Yi Tian knew very well that if these prisoners were still alive, they would have gone through endless years of battles, and had fought against the sky-defying immortal realm before. Under the condition of equal cultivation base and strength, it would be difficult to kill them. Incredibly difficult. Those immortal realms in the space-time territory are afraid that they can't win, and the legendary realm lords such as Ice Letter Lords are afraid that they can't win those legendary realm prisoners. Yi Tian doesn't know if there are other opportunities in this black continent, but he is extremely interested in the enemies in these prisons, and is even interested in fighting with them. Then, Yi Tian picked an immortal lord prisoner. Lord of Kashui. Chapter 1687 The Prisoners with Amazing Strength. The quaint stone tablet is not only a warning and an introduction, but also an entrance into the prison. Yi Tian's will was attached to the stone tablet, and his body was quickly swallowed by the stone tablet. Wow! Yi Tian entered a void similar to the void area, but was even more lonely by the void area, but there was still a trace of energy here, so the prisoners could keep their bodies at their peak here, but if they wanted to cultivate and improve their cultivation, that can't be done at all. When Yi Tian entered here, he saw a tall eternal realm lord who was locked by invisible chains and seemed to be in a state of self-silence. But now, Yi Tian entered here, the chains disappeared, and such signs made the eternal realm lord wake up. This eternal realm lord should be the Kashui lord mentioned on the stone tablet. How many years, and finally the lord of the immortal realm came in, I'm so bored. Then, Lord Kashui showed a sneer, his voice echoed in the void, as if incomparably infiltrating. Of course, for the immortal realm lord, this is not scary at all. But the aura emanating from Lord Kashui is extremely condensed, even close to madness, and is definitely not an ordinary three-step immortal lord. Even if it is not suitable for cultivation, it does not affect the comprehension of eternal skills. No one knows how many eternal skills the Lord of Kashui has learned. But soon, Yi Tian knew that the opponent's shot was a legendary eternal skill. Puff! A black hand smashed the void and appeared in Yi Tian's position, and it was the Kashui lord who shot. But this hand did not attack Yi Tian. Yi Tian used the void step to escape in time. Will cut void sword. Yi Tian did not hesitate at all, and performed this move. This skill of eternal will is extremely fast, but Lord Kashui's reaction is so fast that even the will-slashing sword is dodged. At this time, Yi Tian no longer underestimated Lord Kashui. If it were replaced by other immortal realm lords, he would have been hit hard by him. Although Lord Kashui's speed is not as fast as Yi Tian's, but his combat experience is too rich, his moves are all legendary eternal skills, and each legendary eternal skill is almost created for battle, perfectly coordinated without a single mistake. However, Yi Tian has a real body of nothingness and nothingness, so Lord Kashui would not want to hurt him at all. At this time, Yi Tian could have used 100 million layers of void to injure Lord Kashui, but Lord Kashui was indeed a good training target, so he did not choose to do so, and he could learn a lot from Lord Kashui. In such a prison, it is impossible to keep tempering. After a certain period of time, you will be moved out of the prison, and then you will not be able to enter again in a short time. This is the rule of Moshan. Unless this world is broken, otherwise there is no way to change this rule. Fortunately, there are many prisons here, and there are many prisoners at the level of immortal realm lords, so Yi Tian does not lack opponents. Among these opponents, some opponents are slightly weaker, and some are extremely powerful. However, there is only Yi Tian, an eternal realm, here, and there are no other immortal realm lords in the space-time territory. There may be other immortal realm lords here, but if their strength is too poor, they will easily be severely injured by the prisoners here, so they will not have the effect of tempering, so they will not stay in Moshan prison. Subsequently, Yi Tian sent another duplicate body to explore here in the Black Continent and found 6 immortal realm lords. In addition to the Moshan prison, this Black Continent has several other opportunities. For example, there is a treasure place that can improve the will, and it also has some effects on the lords of the immortal realm. There is also a place where the lords of the legendary realm practice, where legends remain. The traces of the realm lords are worth comprehending. Yi Tian went to see those places one after another, but to him, the most valuable place was Moshan prison. In the following years, Yi Tian's cloned body has been fighting with these immortal prisoners in Moshan prison, gradually perfecting his own legendary eternal skills, so that these legendary eternal skills can fit more perfectly, thus cooperate well and let your own strength play a more powerful effect. Moreover, from them, Yi Tian felt the real use of the will eternal technique, which is an experience that many secret techniques can't learn at all. Eternal years have passed, Yi Tian's strength is getting stronger and stronger, even if his cultivation is still in the 6th step immortal realm lord, his strength has increased several times. After thousands of eternity years, Yi Tian did not know how many battles he had experienced, almost countless. At this level, it is no longer necessary to continue to fight with these prisoners. He plans to kill these prisoners and obtain their treasures. Even if these immortal realm prisoners were captured by Mo Shan could not completely wipe off their treasures. Some treasures were hidden so deeply that they could not be found unless they were killed. Therefore, killing these immortal prisoners, as long as you find a treasure, it will make a lot of money, because it must not be an ordinary treasure. This day, Yi Tian entered the prison void of Lord Kashui, and he was going to kill Lord Kashui. You are here again. Lord Kashui looked at Yi Tian coldly. The battle begins again, but this time, Yi Tian directly cast a billion layers of void, directly injuring the Kashui Lord. Immediately, Yi Tian went all out. Even if his cultivation was suppressed to the same three-step immortal lord as Lord Kashui, Yi Tian's combat power was much stronger than that of Lord Kashui. Lord Kashui was beaten by Yi Tian in the whole process, and he didn't have much power to fight. Soon, Lord Kashui was hit hard. The key point is that Mo Shan no longer exists, so there will be no Mo Shan powerhouse to stop it. Until the moment of death, Lord Kashui did not beg for mercy, and finally fell into Yi Tian's hands and turned into a corpse. After killing Lord Kashui, Yi Tian began to explore the treasures in his body. There is really a treasure. Yi Tian found it. Wow! A drop of water flew out from Lord Kashui and landed on Yi Tian's hand. Although this water drop is not an eternal treasure, it is much more precious than a weapon like the Void Holy Soldier, and it can be called an eternal treasure. Such eternal Kui Bao is not a weapon, but can only be regarded as one of the strange things, and it is a strange thing at the level of eternal realm. After Yi Tian refined this drop of water, he finally knew its usefulness. Open black lens bracket Kui Tianju Ji, restore willpower close black lens bracket. Such a treasure is not bad. For example, if the will of the eternal realm has been severely damaged, it is a little troublesome to recover, but Kui Ji can recover such an injury. That's right, I really don't have such a treasure. It's a big profit to get such an eternal treasure this time. Yi Tian said excitedly. Then, he began to attack the second immortal prison. Chapter 1688 The Infinite Sea is far more powerful than the Source Sea. The second prisoner Yi Tian chose was Lord Chenming. Afterwards, Yi Tian entered the prison of Lord Chenming, and fought with Lord Chenming. He quickly injured Lord Chenming, and soon after, he killed Lord Chenming. On Lord Chenming, Yi Tian did not find any treasures. Not all prisoners have treasures on them, but Lord Chenming has no such treasures. In the following days, Yi Tian beheaded prisoners one by one, and the stone tablets collapsed, representing the prisoners inside, fallen. There are about 3 or 4 of these prisoners who have a very good treasure on their body, which makes Yi Tian's net worth more and more, but the prisoners of the Immortal Realm Lord level are about 1,000, Yi Tian can really get the eternity there are about 3 or 4 to 100 Kui Bao. But even so, his net worth is probably enough to surpass the 6 chiefs. It's a pity that he can't beat those prisoners of the legendary realm lords, otherwise the harvest will be even greater. After a long time, 200 of the immortal realm lords have fallen. If other immortal realm lords knew that Yi Tian had killed 200 immortal realm lord prisoners, they would definitely not believe it. There are only about 100 immortal realm lords in the Yuanai space-time territory, but Yi Tian killed 200 immortal realm prisoners here, what an astonishing number. But it can also be seen from here that Mo Shan is too powerful, and has imprisoned so many immortal realm lords and legendary realm lords. Mo Shan, Jingshu, there is no legend, these places definitely do not belong to the space-time territory, but Yi Tian really doesn't know exactly where they belong. Of course, he will not seek this at the moment, he just wants to get more resources and opportunities. Another prison. Yi Tian, as usual, was going to kill the immortal realm prisoner here. The prisoner was named Raincoat Lord, a female lord with a similar appearance to the human race. Soon, Yi Tian was fighting with the opponent, and he showed all his strength, easily hurting her. Just when Yi Tian was about to kill the opponent, the Raincoat Lord actually begged for mercy. "Do not kill me," the Raincoat Lord begged for mercy. This is the first time Yi Tian has seen a prisoner begging for mercy. Before those prisoners were all mentally abnormal, they couldn't communicate at all. Raincoat fought with him many times before, and never said much, but now he begs for mercy. Suddenly, Yi Tian became interested and stopped fighting. Among the so many prisoners in Mo Shan's prison, you are the only one begging for mercy. Yi Tian said. The Raincoat Lord said, "I don't want to die, but I can feel that you have the intention to kill this time, so I can only beg for mercy." As long as you don't kill me, I will promise you any conditions. Yi Tian was silent for a while and made a decision in his heart. I ask you something, if you answer truthfully, I won't kill you. It is good, the Raincoat Lord responded quickly. Yi Tian asked, I want to know the origin of Mo Shan. I'll tell you, the Raincoat Lord told Mo Shan's origins one by one. In the mouth of the raincoat, Yi Tian learned what kind of power Mo Shan was. Mo Shan is a very ancient force, the Raincoat Lord doesn't know Mo Shan's current situation, she only speaks out what she knows about Mo Shan. Mo Shan has 3 legendary realm lords, many legendary realm lords, and there are too many immortal realm lords. If you want to join a force like Mo Shan, you must be in the Eternal Realm or the 8-pole realm half-step Eternal Realm. Otherwise, they are not eligible to join Mo Shan. And Mo Shan is resolute towards traitors. Once he joins Mo Shan, he must not join other forces, otherwise he will be chased and killed by Mo Shan. There was even an extremely powerful lord of the legendary realm, second only to the legendary realm. The existence of the lord betrayed Mo Shan, and was beheaded by the legendary lord of Mo Shan. As Yi Tian guessed, Mo Shan is not a power in the space-time territory, and the Raincoat Lord doesn't know what space-time territory, whether it is her or Mo Shan, they all come from another place, the Boundless Sea. Infinite Sea is the world where Mo Shan is located, and Mo Shan is one of the forces in Infinite Sea. There are still many forces comparable to Mo Shan, and even more powerful than Mo Shan. In the Boundless Sea, the lords of the legendary realm are the real top existences. None of the lords of the legendary realm can be regarded as top-level combat power, but they are still a hegemon, and the lords of the immortal realm can only be called invincible in a small area. Do you know Jingshu? Yi Tian asked. Jingshu. The Raincoat Lord thought for a moment and nodded. I heard that Jingshu's strength is much weaker than Mo Shan, it's not a level, Jingshu should not have a legendary lord, but there is a half-step legend he is a realm lord, so he is somewhat famous in Boundless Sea, but his reputation is not big. Ask for flowers. Sure enough, both Jingshu and Mo Shan belong to the same place. It should have been a war broke out in the Infinite Sea, which caused the 2 places of Jingshu and Mo Shan to directly cross the time and space and come here, becoming the relics here. Yi Tian secretly said. Then there is no legendary tower, have you heard of it? Yi Tian asked. I heard, the Raincoat Lord replied immediately. The legendary pagoda is the iconic assessment tower of the Boundless Sea in the Holy Land. The Holy Land is the top force that surpasses Mount Mo. The legendary lord alone has more than double digits, far from Mo Shan is comparable. Now this place is no longer in the Infinite Sea, do you know how to get to the Infinite Sea? Yi Tian asked again. He definitely wants to go to a higher world in the future, so Infinite Sea is definitely a very good choice. Sure enough, it's not an Infinite Sea, I felt the prison was shaken by terror, I thought it was Mo Shan's destruction by the enemy, but I didn't wait for the arrival of Mo Shan's enemy, if I hadn't used a secret technique to keep the will and the mind are not affected, otherwise it will be difficult to get through this endless loneliness and maybe you will be crazy. As for how to return to the Boundless Sea, I really don't know. If this place is really separated from the Boundless Sea, it will enter the void area, and I can't locate the Boundless Sea. The Raincoat Lord shook his head. Yi Tian doesn't really expect the Raincoat Lord to guide him to the Boundless Sea, just try to ask. Now that the Raincoat Lord can't help, he has also cut off this idea, maybe when he becomes stronger, there is hope find the Infinite Sea. Subsequently, Yi Tian kept communicating with the Raincoat Lord and learned many secrets. After a long time, Yi Tian left the prison of the Raincoat Lord, and he also kept his promise and did not kill the Raincoat Lord. However, he wouldn't release the Raincoat Lord, and in fact he couldn't. Next, Yi Tian continued to kill other prisoners, but on this day, he encountered a real opponent. The opponent was definitely a match, obviously his strength was terrifying, but he couldn't hide it. If Yi Tian wanted to kill him, he really can't force out his true strength. Chapter 1689 The Eternal Treasure is here. Mo Shan Prison. Yi Tian entered the prison of Lord Mu Chen, fought with him for a while, inflicted heavy damage on the opponent, and was about to kill him when a terrifying aura burst out from Lord Mu Chen's body. This Mu Chen Lord is a 7-step immortal lord, Yi Tian is a 6-step immortal lord. Even if he can exert his full strength in this prison void, his cultivation is still inferior to the other party. After all, the prison void will only suppress the cultivation base, will not increase the cultivation base. However, Yi Tian can leapfrog and fight, so he is not afraid. But now, Lord Mu Chen really showed his strength. An invisible field enveloped the entire prison void, and the next moment, a ray of light instantly penetrated. Facing this ray of light, it seemed that everything was condensed, and even Yi Tian couldn't avoid it. The light of his will was pierced, and the real body of nothingness was difficult to contend with, and his body was directly penetrated. Not only that, there is a terrifying force destroying Yi Tian's duplicate body. I really have thousands of hands. Boom! The hands of August 43 inches Lord Mu Chen appeared in the void, bombarded towards Yi Tian. The power contained in each hand was comparable to the full blow of the legendary eternal skill, and when combined, it was even more shattered. All innate eternal rules, even the will are shattered. This strike and the strike just now seem to contain eternal power, will and innate eternal rules, and they are all combined, as if it is the fusion of the three forces, thus forming a kind of qualitative change. Soon, Yi Tian was hit hard and could not compete with Lord Mu Chen at all. This is also the first time Yi Tian has encountered such a terrifying immortal realm lord, who is much stronger than him. No matter how many legendary eternal skills he possesses, no matter how strong his foundation is, he will not be able to compete with him. In the end, Yi Tian's copy body chose to leave this prison. Outside the prison, Yi Tian stood in front of the stone tablet, did not leave, but pondered. Lord Mu Chen is very hidden. If I didn't want to kill him, he wouldn't reveal his strength. Maybe even Mo Shan doesn't know the strength of Lord Mu Chen. Yi Tian murmured. In the battle with Lord Mu Chen, although he was defeated, he still saw something. However, he needed to fight with Lord Mu Chen many times before he could verify the result. After a period of time, Yi Tian could continue to enter this prison, so he entered again and fought with Lord Mu Chen, but it was still a disastrous defeat. As the long years passed, Yi Tian fought with Lord Mu Chen many times, and gradually realized the strangeness of Lord Mu Chen. The power exerted by Lord Mu Chen is the power generated by the fusion of will, body, and innate eternal rules. Only the legendary lord has the power, but he is only the immortal lord. If he really fuses the body, the will and the innate eternal rules, then it can't be the lord of the immortal realm, but the lord of the legendary realm. Yi Tian thought to himself. Moreover, he also felt a special breath. The reason why Lord Mu Chen was able to display such an eternal skill was entirely after the arrival of a domain, that is to say, that domain gave Lord Mu Chen such a means. That field should be the effect of the eternal treasure. Yi Tian guessed. The special breath he sensed was the breath of the eternal treasure. He had obtained the fragments of the eternal treasure, so he was familiar with the breath of the eternal treasure. Lord Mu Chen probably had an eternal treasure, and this eternal treasure could make him create a special field. In such a field, he can forcibly fuse body, will and innate eternal rules to form a new power, thus displaying a legendary eternal skill. In fact, such a legendary eternal skill can no longer be regarded as a legendary eternal skill, because the power it contains belongs to the power that can only be displayed in the legendary realm, so such an eternal skill can be called a half-step legendary eternal skill. Yi Tian's most powerful eternal skill is only the top legendary eternal skill, which is comparable to the half-step legendary eternal skill. Moreover, Yi Tian's cultivation base is weaker than the opponent's, and his combat experience is even somewhat inferior to the opponent's. Under such circumstances, Yi Tian is naturally far from his opponent. However, this did not mean that Yi Tian could not help the other party. An eternal treasure that may exist, may be a perfect eternal treasure, enough to drive any legendary realm lord crazy, let alone him. Therefore, he must kill this prisoner at all costs and obtain the eternal treasure from his hands. Compared with Lord Mu Chen, Yi Tian's advantage is that he is free, but Lord Mu Chen is a prisoner who is imprisoned, and he can't even practice normally, and even the speed of recovery is very slow. If Lord Mu Chen is not given time to recover, his combat power will actually decline slowly. Yi Tian thought. Immediately, he prepared to copy each body, and the bodies of different people, so that he could enter the prison without time interval and fight with Lord Mu Chen. Prevent. As a result, Lord Mu Chen would not have time to rest and recover. Fighting again and again, Lord Mu Chen's strength will become weaker and weaker. In that case, Yi Tian can kill Lord Mu Chen. This is a defect of Mo Shan's prison, but it is aimed at the defect of the prisoner, and the prisoner has no status for Mo Shan. Even if he knows this defect, Mo Shan doesn't care at all. Wow! Yi Tian copied the body of a six-step immortal lord, and immediately entered the prison of Lord Mu Chen, fighting with Lord Mu Chen, and soon the cloned body died. Afterwards, Yi Tian continued to copy a body into this prison, and continued to fight with Lord Mu Chen all the time. In this way, Lord Mu Chen beheaded one after another six-step immortal lord. Damn, what's going on? Even if these immortal realm lords are all clones and fall, they only lose one clone, but how can they all be willing to lose their clones? Lord Mu Chen said angrily. He guessed that he might have exposed the eternal treasure, but in that case, it is impossible to not expose it. If he did not urge that eternal treasure, he would not be able to beat Yi Tian at all, and he had not encountered a few of such a monstrous immortal realm. Therefore, he must urge that eternal treasure. However, he roughly guessed the situation in the outside world. Mo Shan probably no longer exists. After all, he has not met Mo Shan disciples for a long time, but this time it is very strange. Some of the immortal realms he knew were once captured by Mo Shan and imprisoned here, but now they ran to the void of his prison and fought with him. Could it be that those immortal realms were released to serve another force? He tried to communicate with those immortal realms, but the other party ignored them at all, and instead fought desperately with him at all costs. Gradually, his power was consumed a lot, and he had no way to recover in time. The energy provided by the prison void was too small, and it would take a long time to recover his power. After a while, he began to fade away. Finally, he became seriously injured, and he couldn't even beat a six-step immortal lord. After he beheaded a six-step immortal realm at the price of heavy wounds and dying, Yi Tian, whom he was familiar with, descended again. This time, Yi Tian descended into the void of the prison of Lord Mu Chen with a copy of his own body as a template. Lord Mu Chen knew that he could not kill Yi Tian again, and his face showed despair. "This lord, I can surrender and serve the forces behind you, please don't kill me." Lord Mu Chen begged for mercy. Road 5.8. You think that if you beg for mercy, I will not kill you? You should know what I killed you for. Yi Tian sneered. Lord Mu Chen naturally understood that it was for the eternal treasure. He is very reluctant to this eternal treasure. When he was arrested by a legendary lord of Moshan, he did not reveal the eternal treasure, and he did not even resist much, because he knew very well that once the eternal treasure was activated, he would definitely die. Moshan will definitely kill people and steal treasures. And when he was caught, it was difficult for Moshan to find out his eternal treasure. Even if he was imprisoned, he still had hope of leaving in the future. But this time, he really had no hope. I am willing to hand over the eternal treasure in my hands. Lord Mu Chen said, I don't trust you. After killing you, the eternal treasure is still mine. Yi Tian cast a billion layers of void and directly killed the dying Lord Mu Chen. After killing Lord Mu Chen, the eternal treasure on his body could no longer be hidden, and was easily found by Yi Tian. Chapter 1690. The Eternal Treasure. Hunyuan Order. What appeared in front of Yi Tian was a gray sign. Because of the loss of its owner, its original eternal treasure breath permeated out, causing a certain suppression to Yi Tian. Its breath is incomparably grand and majestic, full of mysterious and stalwart power. This power escapes and forms a special field. It really is an eternal treasure, but it should be a very ordinary eternal treasure. Yi Tian muttered. He obtained a piece of eternal treasure, and the cyan big bell he saw in his breath image was much more powerful than the eternal treasure in front of him. Eternal treasures have untouchable power, and this gray brand is also the same. With endless time and space around, Yi Tian can perceive it, but it is difficult to reach. But he is very clear that there is absolutely a way to reach the eternal treasure, otherwise, how did Lord Mu Chen obtain this eternal treasure and refine it? But he tried many times, but he was still far from reaching this eternal treasure. So, a copy of his body came to the prison of the Raincoat Lord, and asked the 29 Raincoat Lord for advice. The Raincoat Lord didn't want to die, so she didn't dare not answer Yi Tian's advice. Lord of the Raincoat, there should be a lot of eternal treasures in the boundless sea. If you find the eternal treasure, how to take the eternal treasure? I found that the eternal treasure seems to be in the depths of endless time and space, and it can't be touched at all. It doesn't seem to exist between heaven and earth, but in fact, it exists again. Yi Tian asked. The Raincoat Lord replied, Immeasurable sea does have eternal treasures, but the number is not very large. Basically, only legendary lords or a few top legendary lords have eternal treasures, and it is indeed not easy to take away the eternal treasures without owners. Even if we immortal realm lords really encountered the eternal treasure, it would be extremely difficult to take it away, and even some weaker legendary realm lords could not take the eternal treasure. But if there is a way, it is true. Have any solution? Yi Tian asked quickly. Actually, any piece of eternal treasure represents the ultimate existence of one or more kinds of eternal ways, such as Jingshu you mentioned earlier. Jingshu has an eternal treasure, the Qingshu bell, the eternity represented by the Qingshu clock. The Tao is the two eternal Taos of Yukong and escape. The Taos of space, time, gold, wood, water, fire and soil are actually the foundation. The real eternal Tao is not a single foundation. There are various innate eternal rules such as speed, light, darkness, etc. It is said that if you can comprehend the eternal treasure, if you can comprehend one of the eternal ways, you will have the hope of getting that eternal treasure. Of course, the premise is that there is no owner of eternity treasure. If there is a master, even if you comprehend the endless eternity, there is no way to get the eternal treasure. The Raincoat Lord explained. I see. Yi Tian nodded and left the prison immediately. In the prison of Lord Mu Chen, Yi Tian's duplicate body never left. Now that he knew the method, he began to comprehend the eternal Tao contained in this gray sign. Compared to the sword in the ruins where the legend pagoda is located, this brand gave Yi Tian a clearer feeling. Comparing at this moment, Yi Tian decided that the sword should not be on the side of Junwu Legend Pagoda. It is estimated that it is still in the boundless sea, and the sword of the relic is only the time-space projection of the eternal treasure, and what everyone comprehends is only the eternal treasure. Projection. Comprehension projection may have some effects, but it will never be able to comprehend its true eternal way. At most, use its projection breath to practice one or two, assisting comprehension to create eternal skills or some secret techniques. In this moment, Yi Tian felt a strong aura of the eternal Tao from this eternal treasure, and deeply realized a kind of eternal Tao contained within it. After a long time, he clearly realized what this eternal way represents. Humble way. This is the Hunyuan Tao in the eternal Tao, which can make all kinds of forces mix and unique to form the eternal Hunyuan field. Comparatively speaking, Hunyuan Tao is somewhat in line with Yi Tian, so he has a great hope of comprehending it within a certain period of time. The foundation of Hunyuan Tao is various innate eternal rules. Yi Tian comprehends Hunyuan Tao with various innate eternal rules, and with the help of this eternal treasure, Yi Tian's perception of Hunyuan Tao is getting deeper and deeper. Eternal years have passed. Yi Tian's cultivation is still in the sixth-step immortal realm lord, but his strength has been improving, such as the world of will, he has been opening up. Today, his will world has reached more than 80,000. Moreover, he also entered the Legend of Nothingness Tower, broke into the 19th floor at one time, and then practiced in the Legend of Nothingness for a period of time, slightly improving the degree of fusion of will and body, which is very close to the 7th-step Immortal Lord. It's close, but it's a step that's not so easy to cross. About 10,000 eternal years have passed. This day, Yi Tian finally started the cultivation of the eternal primordial Tao, and he was surprised to find that the eternal primordial Tao actually helped to fuse the will and the body, but the premise was that various precious resources were needed, and various powers were drawn to enhance the fusion of the will and the body. Similar to fusion transformation. Lord Mu Chen's eternal primordial Tao has definitely started. If he is not caught by Mo Shan, he can definitely grow up to 843, and it will not be difficult to become a legendary lord at all. Yi Tian thought to himself. With the entry-level eternal primordial Tao, coupled with this eternal treasure, his future cultivation speed will be much faster, and it will definitely not be long before he can be promoted to the 7th-step immortal lord realm. Let's see if we can take this eternal treasure. Yi Tian stretched out his hand to grab this eternal treasure. The power of the eternal primordial Tao formed a weak field. With blessings in his hand, it penetrated into endless time and space, and passed through layers of time and space, as if spanning the infinite and long. The distance seems to be only a few meters across. Finally, Yi Tian's hand touched this eternal treasure. Wow, the eternal treasure was caught by Yi Tian. Afterwards, Yi Tian began to refine this eternal treasure, so that this eternal treasure could be used normally. Time passed slowly, and about a few robbery times passed before Yi Tian refined this eternal treasure. At this time, he also knew the name of this eternal treasure, Hunyuan Ling. With the primordial order, my strength has increased by more than 10 times. Yi Tian said excitedly. Moreover, it will not be long before he can be promoted to the 7th-step immortal lord. Soon, another happy event came. Chapter 1691 8th-step immortal lord. Blood and Bone territory is finally going to be promoted to eternal time and space territory. Yi Tian smiled. Many eternity years ago, he traded the heavenly steel from the Lord of Ice letter, and put the heavenly steel into the origin of the Blood and Bone territory, prompting the continuous growth and evolution of the Blood and Bone territory, but he wanted to evolve into the eternal space-time territory. It can't be done all at once, it takes a certain amount of time. And this time is not too long for the Immortal Realm Lord. Now, the Blood-Bone territory has finally completed the final step and ushered in the final big qualitative change. Boom! The Blood-Bone territory is constantly expanding like a balloon, continuously absorbing endless source energy from the source sea. Moreover, the Blood-Bone territory is still extracting the energy of the bones in the Blood-Bone territory. At this time, A copy of Yi Tian's body is in the blood and bone territory, watching the transformation of the blood and bone territory. I saw that the blood-bone territory continued to grow, and a large number of rare resources were born. One after another, mineral veins, natural treasures, and rare creatures were born one after another, and the blood-colored power contained in the bones was also absorbed by the blood-bone territory. The territory has become a rather special eternal space-time territory. After a long time, the transformation of the blood-bone territory was completed, and it had become a real eternal time and space territory, and the newly born eternal time and space territory contained incomparably huge resources. Yi Tian is not going to collect these resources, he is going to bring a group of human race supremes in half-step eternal realm from the dark forbidden area, let them cultivate here, and collect some resources by the way. In this way, these human race powerhouses will grow up quickly, and they can also help him manage the eternal space-time territory. Hey, the skeleton of the suspected legendary lord creature has shrunk a lot, and it's also a lot weaker. Yi Tian came to the bottom of the Black Sea, felt the skeleton of the legendary lord creature, and muttered. It can be said that now this legendary lord skeleton can no longer affect the blood-bone territory, and even if it is destroyed, it will not have any effect on the blood-bone territory. In the following days, Yi Tian moved some human races from the dark forbidden area of the Source Sea to the eternal space-time territory, and opened a space-time channel to ensure that the human race could sneak into the blood and bone space-time territory and the dark forbidden area freely. In this way, he doesn't need to manage these things, or else there are people who want to go back and have to ask him to help, he is not so idle. After dealing with these things, Yi Tian began to cultivate hard, and strive to improve his cultivation to the realm of the seven-step immortal lord as soon as possible. With the help of the primordial order, Yi Tian's will and body merged faster and faster. Finally, after dozens of eternity years, Yi Tian's body and will merged more than 70% and entered the seventh step of immortality. Realm Lord Realm. With a breakthrough in cultivation, Yi Tian's strength has also increased a lot, and if he cooperates with the primordial order, there is even a chance to fight against the weakest legendary realm lord. Of course, there is a huge gap in strength between the immortal realm lord and the legendary realm lord. Yi Tian's strength is still a bit far from the six great masters of the space-time territory. In the following days, Yi Tian's main purpose is not only to improve his cultivation, but also to create various top-notch legendary eternal skills. Only the top legendary eternal skills can exert the power of half-step legendary eternal skills with the help of the primordial order. He currently only has two top legendary eternal skills, Void Step and Billion Void. Other legendary eternal skills are relatively common. He intends to improve and modify those ordinary legendary eternal skills to make these legendary eternal skills into top legendary eternal skills. But to create and perfect the legendary eternal skill, the eternal Hunyuan field created by Hunyuan Ling can play a very good help and reference effect. Therefore, Yi Tian kept trying to perfect the legendary eternal skills in the eternal primordial field, and the eternal years passed by one after another. Before you know it, 100,000 eternal years have passed. This is also an extremely long retreat for Yi Tian. During this period, the half-step eternal realm of the human race increased a lot, and even a number of extreme realms were born, and Yi Tian's family stepped into the eternal realm lord level with his help. But compared with Yi Tian, their progress was insignificant. The 8-step immortal lord, dozens of top legendary eternal skills, the world of will has reached 99,999, and will soon break through the world of 100,000 wills. My strength is much stronger than in the past. Yi Tian said excitedly. 99,999 will worlds are equivalent to the peak of the third order eternal will. Once it breaks through to 100,000 will worlds, the will world will usher in a transformation and become the fourth order eternal will. The fourth order eternal will is the will of the legendary lord. At present, only 6 legendary lords have reached the fourth order in will, while the other immortal realms are only third order. If the will breaks through, this is also a substantial increase in strength for Yi Tian, and it may be able to directly make his strength comparable to the 6 chiefs. However, it is extremely difficult to open up this last will world. Yi Tian tried many times without success, and caused the cloned body to collapse many times. After trying countless times, Yi Tian realized a problem, that is, the secret technique of the world of will is not good and has major flaws. Yi Tian has grown to the third order peak will, and Yi Tian can use the copy body again and again. Try, others can't. Now, he must re-perfect the will world secret technique, in order to break the shackles of the will and be promoted to the fourth order will. Yi Tian has also acquired a lot of will cultivation secret techniques, and even found some will secret technique inheritances in the Jingshu ruins, but many will cultivation secret techniques are not suitable for him, and the foundation of his will world has been established. It is suitable for changing secret techniques at will, so it can only learn from the essence of other secret techniques to improve the will world secret technique. In this way, Yi Tian began to perfect the will world secret technique. Anyway, there is a copy of the body as an experiment, so Yi Tian can perfect and modify the will world secret money is good technique again and again, so he perfects it very quickly. It only took dozens of eternity years. Yi Tian successfully raised the will world secret technique by several grades. The new will world secret technique is to imitate the source sea, turning the inner world into the will source sea, and turning other will worlds into space-time territories, surrounding the entire source sea will world. This will world will be very stable, and it is easy to open up new ones. World of will. Of course, turning the inner world into a sea of wills is a very crucial step. Once such a world of wills is formed, it will be an incomparably terrifying world of wills. He intends to integrate all his will into such a world of will, and fully open up a sea of wills. During this process, many will worlds are afraid that they will collapse, but as long as the source of will is opened up, he can recover quickly. This is a very bold move. If it is not for copying the body, Yi Tian would not dare to try it. Chapter 1692 Fourth Order Eternal Will. Internal World. At this time, Yi Tian had turned this place into nothingness, and the countless continents that were originally built in the inner world had turned into nothingness, and everything had returned to the original. Immediately, countless will powers poured into this world, operating according to the secret technique of the new world of will. The power of will was continuously integrated into the internal world, and began to form a source of will, constantly transforming this internal world and turning it into a sea of will. However, the world in the body is not an ordinary particle cell, so to transform such a world into a sea of wills requires endless resources and time. Fortunately, Yi Tian has obtained too many treasures from those Moshan prisoners. He can take out a few treasures at will and trade with the 6 legendary lords or other immortal lords, and he can obtain a large amount of resources, which is enough for himself to complete this practice. Years go by. Eternal years have passed, and the time spent on opening up the source sea of will this time is not known how many times longer than opening up the world of will. Even if it is just a test, this time must be wasted. This is a key test that affects the cultivation of the world of will. If he can succeed, not only can he break the shackles of will and be promoted to the 4th order eternal will, he can even cultivate to the 5th order will, or even a higher will. If he fails, he will not be able to break through and must recreate a new world of will. After about 10 eternity years, the source of will was finally opened up by Yi Tian. At this time, the source of will is full of endless willpower, but Yi Tian's current state is not particularly good. For this breakthrough, the other worlds of will in his body have almost collapsed, but the source of will has been opened up anyway. This is success. Next, Yi Tian started experimenting again and again, striving to open up the source of willpower with the least cost and no sequelae, which required multiple tests and thus took a long time. But for Yi Tian, it was worth the extra time. In this way, Yi Tian opened up the Sea of Wills again and again. The experience of opening the Sea of Wills became more and more proficient, and the price he paid became less and less. About 3,000 eternity years have passed. Yi Tian has tried 300 times, and he has been able to open up the source of will at a very small price, and the consequences can be recovered slowly without affecting his foundation. So on this day, Yi Tian began to formally condense the will CJFI, source C. Boom! The source of will was opened up, and then Yi Tian began to repair the sequelae. After the repair was complete, a new world of will could be reopened. The brand new world of will surrounds the source of will, and the number gradually increases. After a long time, the world of wills returned to 99,999, and soon gathered one again, reaching 100,000 worlds of wills. That's when the transformation began. Yi Tian's willpower is constantly condensed, and it grows stronger at an incredible speed. This is the will that breaks the will of the 3rd order eternal will and leads to the 4th order eternal will. After a long time, Yi Tian's will has all changed, and it has become the 4th order eternal will. The 4th order eternal will is nearly 10 times stronger than the 3rd order eternal will, and even the general immortal lord can be smashed with just the will. This is the power of the 4th order eternal will. The willpower has been raised to the 4th rank. Yi Tian's strength has soared. Even if the eternal treasure of the primordial order is not used, the real combat power is comparable to the weaker legendary realm lord. Among the lords, it is possible to rank in the middle. Moreover, it is easier for Yi Tian to open up the world of will now, so within a certain period of time, his fourth order will improve a lot, and his strength still has a certain period of improvement. As for the fusion of will and body, it is also rapidly improving. Perhaps it will not be too long before he can fuse 90% of his body with his will and enter the realm of the 9-step immortal lord. In the following years, Yi Tian made every effort to improve his cultivation, accelerate the fusion of will and body, and strive to ascend to the realm of the 9-step immortal lord as soon as possible. At the same time, he is also helping some geniuses of the human race, opening up many treasures, and the human race has gradually given birth to several lords of the eternal realm. It can be said that the human race is now almost the largest race in the Source Sea. From the beginning to the end, Yi Tian did not abandon the dark forbidden area. Perhaps many forces did not value Yuan very much, thinking that Yuan had no resources but only a large area. But Yi Tian values Yuan very much. After all, no matter how good the space-time territory is, it must be attached to Yuan, and only Yuan has the most perfect innate eternal rules. In this way, Yi Tian's body has been using the primordial order to comprehend and improve his cultivation in the dark forbidden area. 100,000 eternal years. 200,000 eternal years. 300,000 eternal years. Finally, on this day, Yi Tian's will and body have reached 90%, becoming the realm of the 9-step immortal lord, but if he wants to completely fuse his body with his will and enter the legendary lord realm, he needs more time. And Yi Tian didn't care about these times at all, and was cultivating with all his strength. At the very least, he can see hope, and there are also several 9-step immortal lords in the space-time territory, and there is still no hope of entering the legendary lord level, which shows how difficult this step is. If it is not difficult, the time and space territory will not only have 6 legendary lords. This day, Yi Tian was cultivating in the dark forbidden area, and a half-step eternal realm of the human race reported a message that a strange vision had appeared somewhere in the Source Sea, but they could not find the location of the vision, and they could not even fly to that location. After Yi Tian got this news, he dared to go to that position immediately. The Source Sea, the treasure land of Shulong. Yi Tian came here and saw a world, and in the center of the world, a leaf was growing. His will wants to get close to here, but it can't reach it. Eternal treasure, Yi Tian guessed. If this is the case, then it is incredible, this is likely to be a real eternal treasure, not a space-time projection. Hiss. The void split open, and a figure emerged. The man was covered in black mist, exuding a gloomy aura. I have seen the Dark Mist Lord, Yi Tian said politely. The person in front of him is one of the 6 legendary lords, and he is quite mysterious. The Dark Mist Lord ignored Yi Tian at all, just staring at the leaves in this vision with scorching eyes. Chapter 1693 Fight with the Dark Mist Lord. Eternal Treasure. The Dark Mist Lord is extremely excited and eager, this is very likely to be an eternal treasure. As one of the 6 legendary lords, he is naturally very clear that the relic in the space-time territory has no real eternal treasure at all, that sword is just a time-space projection, and the real eternal treasure is not in the space-time territory at all. He has never encountered a real eternal treasure, and at this moment, Yuan finally gave birth to an eternal treasure. Although Yuan is relatively young, it also has the potential to give birth to eternal treasures. I have waited for countless years, and finally I have waited. The Dark Mist Lord wants to monopolize this eternal treasure and does not want to share it with other legendary lords. He has been guarding Yuan all the time, so he was able to arrive at Yuan as soon as possible. As for the other 5 legendary lords, they did not pay much attention to Yuan. However, this eternal treasure has not been born completely, it will take some time, and it will be very difficult to take away the eternal treasure, and it will take a long time. He can't hide the other 5 legendary lords at all. Blocking this area, the half-step eternal realm in the Source Sea has almost no knowledge, and they don't know what the eternal treasure is. If I occupy this area and don't allow any creatures to approach, the news will not spread. The Dark Mist Lord thought. Of course, there is one more thing that needs to be dealt with in front of you, and that is the Endless Lord in front of you. This is an immortal lord, and he is still a lord with a clone. He must be subdued, otherwise the Endless Lord will spread the news, and he can't stop it. Lord Endless, you take refuge in me and become the lord of my line. In the future, I will help you to attack the lord of the legendary realm. How? The Dark Mist Lord said. Not good, Yi Tian said indifferently. It's ridiculous that the Dark Mist Lord still wants to subdue him. Lord Endless, do you know the gap between us? Although you have a clone, I also have a clone. If I deal with you with all my strength, do you think you can escape? And your foundation is the source sea and the blood and bone territory, right? There is also a race called human race. If you offend me, you should know the consequences. The Dark Mist Lord began to threaten. Although he knew that threatening Yi Tian would make Yi Tian very angry, even if he reluctantly agreed, it would be a hidden danger in the future. However, he couldn't care so much anymore. He didn't want to publicize the birth of the eternal treasure here. He needed to delay time. The longer the delay, the greater the hope for him to capture this eternal treasure. In the future, if he is in charge of an eternal treasure, he will be an invincible existence in the entire source sea and space-time territory. At that time, even if he offends all the eternal realms, he will have nothing to fear. You threaten me? Yi Tian looked at the Dark Mist Lord indifferently. The aura on his body became cold and condensed. Wisps of killing intent boiled into the void. His will advanced, and the void began to shatter. Fourth Order will. The Dark Mist Lord was a little surprised. Only the Lord of the Legendary Realm has the will of the Fourth Order, and Yi Tian has not yet reached the Lord of the Legendary Realm, but he has the will of the Fourth Order in advance. This is very difficult. But even so, the Dark Mist Lord did not take Yi Tian in his eyes. No matter how powerful the Immortal Realm Lord is, he is far from being an opponent of the Legendary Realm Lord. Lord Endless, ask you again, do you trust me? The Dark Mist Lord forced the road. Roll. Yi Tian didn't want to talk nonsense either, so he said coldly. Boom. The aura of the Dark Mist Lord burst out, and the billions and billions of territories collapsed. At this moment, he really wanted to kill Yi Tian. However, he still couldn't help it. If he really did it, he would definitely be on the opposite side of Yi Tian, so the news here would be impossible to hide. In an instant, the aura of the Dark Mist Lord converged, and the whole person became gentle, and said, The Endless Lord, you are the Lord of the Immortal Realm Peak, and it is normal that you are unwilling to join my faction. But the chance here belongs to me. Now, as long as you make an oath of will, not to leak the news here, and not allow anyone to approach this place, I will not take action against you, otherwise you and I will be mortal enemies. Yi Tian sneered. Dark Fog Lord, you want to monopolize the eternal treasure here, and you don't want to let the other 5 legendary lords know about it, but you underestimate me too much. I tell you, this eternal treasure it's mine, you should get out of here. Ripped face. The Dark Mist Lord can no longer bear the anger in his heart, and it is the other Immortal Realm Lords of the time and space territory. Which one dares to talk to him like this, and which one is not respectful? Lord Endless, your clone is doomed, I will even hunt down your other clones until I kill you completely. As soon as the voice fell, the Dark Mist Lord shot. 3,000 dark fog shadows. One after another, dark shadows appeared, all around. In an instant, these dark shadows attacked Yi Tian in unison, and the strength of each dark shadow was comparable to that of the top 9-step Immortal Realm Lord. If it is an ordinary 9-step Immortal Lord, I am afraid that he will be killed by the Dark Fog Lord soon. Facing a legendary Realm Lord, Yi Tian would not underestimate him. Nothingness. Will Wall Light. These 2 legendary eternal skills have now been perfected by Yi Tian to the level of top legendary eternal skills, and their power is very powerful. Bang bang bang. The attacks of the 3,000 dark fog shadows were blocked by Yi Tian's will, and they couldn't hurt Yi Tian at all. Next moment, Yi Tian used the legendary eternal skill of Billions of Voids, which superimposed billions of voids to suppress the Dark Mist Lord. Ask for flowers. Boom. The Dark Mist Lord's complexion changed, obviously affected by the billions of voids, and his body began to tremble. Layers of voids are compressed into one layer, and pieces of territory are compressed into small pieces, in order to suppress the Dark Mist Lord. However, the strength of the Dark Fog Lord is still very strong, and he has forcibly tore apart countless suppressions that want to be empty, and a large area of the void is empty. Boom. The 2 sides kept colliding and fighting, but on the whole, Yi Tian was still at a disadvantage. If it hadn't been for his avatar, Yi Tian wouldn't be able to beat the Dark Mist Lord in his normal state. You actually possess the power of a void beast, how did you do it? The Dark Mist Lord asked suspiciously. But Yi Tian would not answer him. The Dark Mist Lord took out the top Void Holy Soldier against the Void Beast, but it was repeatedly slashed by Yi Tian's will of the Void Sword, and the Void Holy Soldier gradually shattered. From the beginning to the end, Yi Tian still did not activate the Eternal Supreme Treasure Primordial Order. But for a long time, he had to use it. Another clone of the Dark Mist Lord appeared in the Source Sea, and went directly to the Dark Forbidden Area. Such a move completely angered Yi Tian. The Dark Mist Lord has a total of 2 clones, plus the main body as the 3 major forces. Now, in addition to the main body, the Dark Mist Lord has dispatched 2 clones, and also wants to take action against the Dark Forbidden Area, which shows that he really wants to be with Yi forever. Just when the second avatar of the Dark Mist Lord was about to come to the Dark Forbidden Area, Yi duplicate body intercepted the Dark Mist Lord. The Dark Mist Lord saw another body of Yi and thought it was Yi body, so he didn't care. But soon, he was dumbfounded. Woohoo! 2 duplicate bodies appeared. At this moment Yi had dispatched 3 major body combat powers. More importantly, one of Yi cloned bodies directly motivated the primordial order. The eternal primordial realm enveloped a duplicate body of the Dark Mist Lord, and cast a billion layers of void. With the help of the primordial order, the billion-layer void has integrated into the 3 major forces, reaching the power of the half-step legendary eternal skill. Kaka. The 3,000 dark fog shadows of the Dark Fog Lord shattered one after another, and this legendary eternal skill could no longer be maintained. Then, Yi willful Dao fist bombarded the Dark Mist Lord's body with one punch, directly punching him into the depths of time and space, shattering billions of time and space, and the Dark Mist Lord's body also began to crack. The punches really hurt him. However, Yi wanted to kill the Dark Mist Lord, but it was still a little difficult. The other side, Yi sent 2 more duplicate bodies to the Dark Mist Lord. He wanted to let the Dark Mist Lord know the consequences of offending him. Chapter 1694. The 6 major bodies are all shot. Dark Mist Territory. This is the eternal space-time territory of the Dark Fog Lord, and it is one of the top eternal space-time territories. There are many eternal realm lords and countless half-step eternal realms. It is also considered by other eternal realms as the safest place in the space-time territory. 1. After all, the Dark Mist Lord, one of the 6 legendary lords, is sitting here. Who would dare to invade here? Even in the 2 wars between the space-time territory and the Void Beast, the Dark Mist territory was not affected. But today, the Dark Mist territory has been invaded. Boom! The time and space barriers of the Dark Mist territory were torn apart, and a will sword composed of will and innate eternal rules came across the void and bombarded the core area of the Dark Mist territory, which was also the headquarters of the Dark Mist territory, the Lord of the Dark Mist, place of practice. The body of the Dark Mist Lord is not guarded in the Dark Mist territory, but is actually still cultivating in a ruin. 843. And his 2 clones had already headed to the Origin Sea, causing the Dark Mist territory to be unable to stop Yi at all. Click. In the Dark Mist territory, the sacred mountain where the Dark Mist Lord cultivated was shattered by a single blow, and a subordinate of the Dark Mist Lord around was eroded by the will sword. One after another sword light of will crossed the body of the half-step eternal realm. Even the 7-pole realm half-step eternal realm or the 8-pole realm half-step eternal realm could not bear any ray of will sword light. One by one turned into one. Smash. Do not. An inextinguishable realm peak lord showed despair and tried his best to resist the sword lights of will. This was just the aftermath of the attack of the sword of will, but he still couldn't bear it. I saw that the body of this inextinguishable realm peak lord was smashed into countless pieces by the sword of will, all the vitality dissipated, the will was annihilated, and he had already fallen and died. Not only this peak lord of the immortal realm, but also many lords of the inextinguishable realm, also fell to their deaths one after another. Maybe they have clones, but it must be the main body that stays here, because in their eyes, the Dark Mist territory is the safest place, and the main body will naturally not fall when staying here, but who would have thought that the Dark Mist territory would be invaded? These immortal lords could not bear Yi Tian's will, but there were 2 immortal lords under the Dark Mist Lord. These 2 immortal lords are lords trained by the Dark Fog Lord, so the main body is also practicing in the Dark Fog territory, and the clone manages their own time and space territory. At this moment, they also endured the attack of the will-slashing sword. The 2-step immortal lord was directly injured and dying, while the 7-step immortal lord was not lightly injured. However, Yi Tian's attack just now was not aimed at them. If it was aimed at them, they would not be able to bear it. Quickly notify the Dark Mist Lord. The 2 immortal lords immediately summoned the Dark Mist Lords. Immediately, they tried to persuade Yi Tian. Lord Endless, if you invade the Dark Mist territory, aren't you afraid of the wrath of the Dark Mist Lord? Leave immediately, and there is still a chance to survive. The 2-step Immortal Realm Lord persuaded. No step. Yi Tian walked in front of the 2-step Immortal Realm Lord in 1 step, and bombarded it with the extreme fist of will. Boom. The 2-step Immortal Lord was directly blown up by a punch, and the will is a legendary eternal skill of the will, and this 2-step Immortal Lord will not defend the eternal skill at all, and the will is not very strong, was directly annihilated by Yi Tian's will. So far, the two-step immortal lord has fallen. There is no legend inside the eternal treasure time-space projection palace that comprehends the breath of Kendo. A lord of the immortal realm and the legendary Lord Binghan are practicing and comprehending the breath of Kendo. Suddenly, an immortal realm lord's body disintegrated and dissipated between heaven and earth. Such a scene immediately attracted the attention of other immortal realm territories, and even Lord Binghan watched it. Why did Lord Yu's body suddenly disintegrate? This is Lord Yu's clone. Should it be Lord Yu who disassembled his clone? 1. Disassemble your body by yourself. How is this possible? The cost of reuniting a clone is extremely huge. How could Lord Yu be so stupid to disassemble his body by himself? Lord Yu is the Lord of Darkmist. His body should be in the territory of Darkmist. Is it possible that Lord Yu can still fall? I received a message that the Darkmist territory has been invaded. Who invaded the Darkmist territory? Void Beast. It's not a Void Beast, it's an Endless Lord. What? The Endless Lord? How dare he invade the Darkmist territory? The Endless Lord is just an immortal lord, he is not afraid of the Darkmist Lord killing him. Come on, let's go and see, something big must have happened. Whoa whoa whoa, a lord of the immortal realm went to see the fun, and a clone of Lord Ice Letter also went to the Darkmist territory, she was also very curious about it. Darkmist territory. The seven-step immortal lord was seriously injured and dying at the moment. He wanted to escape, but he couldn't escape at all. The strength gap between the two sides was too great. Billion Void. Yi Tian performed this trick. Boom. A layer of voids were compressed, and the seven-step immortal lord turned into a body of hundreds of millions of feet to resist the suppression of the billions of voids, but it was crushed into pieces in an instant, even with the billions of voids. Countless fragments. The seven-step immortal lord also fell. And all of this happened in a short period of time, and the speed was so fast that even the Dark Mist Lord didn't have time to rescue him. The seven-step immortal lord just fell, and the body of the Dark Fog Lord came back from a certain ruin. Endless Lord, you are too much. The Dark Mist Lord said angrily. Months, but you want to kill me, and let me take action in the Dark Forbidden area. Since you dare to do this, you have to bear the anger. Tian said coldly. Without further ado, the two of them fought in the void area on the spot. Boom! The fluctuations generated by the battle between the two even had an impact on the Dark Mist territory. The Dark Mist Lord tried to stay away from the Dark Mist territory and led Yi Tian to fight in a farther place. Yi Tian didn't care about it. 5.8 His purpose is not to destroy the Dark Mist territory. Now that he has killed a lot of the eternal realm of the Dark Mist territory, it is enough. He even wants to kill the Dark Mist Lord now. Of course, he knew it was hard to do, but he could try it. Yi Tian came here with two duplicated bodies, 2 against 1, taking a slight advantage. It's a pity that there is only one primordial order, and it cannot be equipped on a copy body. What Yi Tian wants to do now is to kill one of the avatars of the Dark Mist Lord first, and then he will be free to deal with the main body of the Dark Mist territory and another avatar. Soon, Yi Tian's body was also dispatched, and in the Source Sea, he combined 2 clones to attack a clone of the Dark Mist Lord. This is 3-on-1, and there is also the help of the Primordial Order, which completely crushed this clone of the Dark Mist Lord. Chapter 1695 The Dark Mist Lord escapes. Near the Dark Mist territory, Yi Tian's 2 cloned bodies fought against the Dark Mist Lord's body. At this time, Lord Ice Letter was watching, and several other legendary lords were watching the battle. The Endless Lord has such a powerful strength. The Lord of the Holy Peak was shocked. The strength of the Dark Mist Lord is not the strongest among the 6 legendary lords, but it is not the weakest, and it has been a long time since he became a legendary lord, and his strength is much stronger than the legendary lord who has just broken through. Moreover, the Immortal Realm Lord is too weak compared to the Legendary Realm Lord. It stands to reason that the Legendary Realm Lord can seriously damage or even kill the top Immortal Realm Lord. But Yi Tian can compete with a Legendary Realm Lord like the Dark Fog Lord, which is incredible. The Endless Lord is comparable to a true Legendary Lord. Lord Ice Letter muttered. They did not participate in the battle between Yi Tian and the Dark Mist Lord. Although they had known the Dark Mist Lord for a longer time, they were also in a competitive relationship with each other, and it was impossible to offend Yi Tian for the Dark Mist Lord. In addition, they could see that Yi Tian in the Immortal Realm Lord realm possessed a combat power comparable to that of the Legendary Realm Lord. If Yi Tian 29 broke through to the Legendary Realm Lord level, his strength would definitely surpass them. Therefore, they did not want to offend Yi Tian. If the Dark Mist Lord knew Yi Tian's strength earlier, he would not want to be an enemy of Yi Tian, but now that he is an enemy, naturally there is no room for reconciliation. Time passed slowly. The battle between Yi Tian and the Dark Mist Lord had spread throughout the entire time and space territory, and many eternal realms came to observe this battle, but they did not dare to approach, but began to observe the battle in a distant area. If you get closer, you will be killed by Yi Tian and the Dark Mist Lord's battle. At first, they didn't know the reason why Yi Tian fought with the Dark Mist Lord, but it was soon revealed. After all, Yi Tian and the clones of the Dark Mist Lord were fighting in the Source Sea, and those legendary realm lords could find out after a little investigation. Immediately, the other 5 legendary lords were excited. This is an eternal treasure, a real eternal treasure, not a time-space projection of the eternal treasure. This is the first eternal treasure of Yuan, and it is of great significance. If they obtain this eternal treasure, their strength will inevitably skyrocket. At this time, the 5 legendary lords finally understood why Yi Tian fought with the Dark Mist Lord. It must be for this eternal treasure. Whoa! The clones of the 5 legendary lords came to the Source Sea and waited silently at the birthplace of the eternal treasure. Even if Yi Tian and the Dark Mist Lord were fighting nearby, they would not care. Endless Lord, the other 5 legendary lords have already discovered the eternal treasure here. It is meaningless for us to fight. The Dark Mist Lord said. He didn't want to keep fighting anymore because he was in a weak position. If he continues to fight, he is really in danger of falling. Even if only one clone fell, it would be a huge loss, so he wanted to stop with Yi Tian. Don't think about it. Yi Tian refused directly. The Dark Mist Lord wanted to stop, but he didn't want to. The Dark Mist Lord dared to threaten him, and even wanted to attack the Dark Forbidden Area, which was equivalent to touching his inverse scales. As for the eternal treasure being discovered, then discover it. Anyway, the eternal treasure has not really been conceived yet, so he is not in a hurry at all. In the following days, Yi Tian frantically surrounded and killed the 3 major bodies of the Dark Mist Lord. After a while, the avatar of the Dark Mist Lord who was besieged by Yi Tian's 3 major bodies couldn't hold on any longer. After all, these 3 bodies were also assisted by the Primordial Order, so he was naturally far from an opponent. At this time, the avatar of the Dark Mist Lord is full of cracks, and countless particles inside the body have been smashed by the half-step legendary eternal skill. Finally on this day, the clone of the Dark Mist Lord was completely killed by Yi Tian. A clone was killed. This is a disaster for the Dark Mist Lord. Wow! Yi Tian's 3 bodies tore apart the time and space barriers of the Yuan, and went to the Dark Mist territory, preparing to unite with the other 2 bodies to surround and kill the Dark Mist Lord's body with the 5 bodies. Once the main body of the Dark Mist Lord is killed, the other clone will also collapse. Boom boom boom. Yi Tian's 3 body sources made the Dark Mist Lord's body tremble. Although the main body has the most weapons, it is not much stronger than the other 2 clones. It is impossible to resist Yi Tian's 5 major bodies. Once surrounded, there is a real risk of falling. It's just that the clone is killed. Although the loss is very heavy, it is not unbearable, but once the main body falls, it will really fall. After all, the Dark Mist Lord is not like Yi Tian. The 6 major bodies can be regarded as the main body. Escape. The Dark Mist Lord was counseled and fled at all costs. Soon, the Dark Mist Lord fled into the far-flung area of nothingness, and Yi Tian's 5 major bodies chased after him. But at this moment, the avatar of the Dark Mist Lord in the Source Sea began to frantically rush towards the Dark Forbidden Area. Yi Tian's strength is indeed very powerful, but there is no way to completely prevent the Dark Mist Lord from attacking the Dark Forbidden Realm. 843. In desperation, Yi Tian had to transfer several duplicate bodies back to help the duplicate body in the Source Sea, thereby preventing the Dark Mist Lord. In this way, the main body of the Dark Mist Lord has a great hope of escaping. Obviously, the Dark Mist Lord is sacrificing his second clone in order to gain the hope of escape for himself. Let the Dark Mist Lord's body escape, Yi Tian said helplessly. The speed of the Dark Fog Lord is not very fast, but he has a lot of trump cards, and he also has a special eternal treasure, which directly helps him escape to the depths of the void area but cannot lock the position in a short time. Set the position for a short time, and at the speed of the Dark Fog, I do not know 7. Subsequently, Yi Tian's 6 bodies together besieged the clone left by the Dark Mist Lord in Yuan, and quickly killed this clone. At this point, only the main body of the Dark Mist Lord escaped, and the 2 clones fell into the Source Sea. Regarding the fate of the Dark Mist Lord, the other 5 legendary lords were very surprised, so they were very afraid of Yi Tian. Not long after, the eternal treasure in the Source Sea was truly conceived. At this time, it will be up to who can take this eternal treasure. Chapter 1696. The 5 legendary lords are dumbfounded. Source C. The birthplace of the eternal treasure, Yi Tian and the 5 legendary lords of the space-time territory are all here. At this time, Lord Bingxin suggested, "Everyone, the eternal treasure is very rare, and it is difficult to take it away. If we take it away, it belongs to whomever, and we must not kill each other. How about it?" "I agree." The Lord of the Holy Peak immediately agreed. And several other legendary realm lords also agreed. Yi Tian naturally agreed. He could not compete with the alliance of the other 5 legendary realm lords, this time against the Dark Fog Lord. If any of the legendary realm lords helped him, he neither can kill the clone of the Dark Mist Lord. He didn't want to be the target of public criticism, so he agreed to Lord Ice Letter's proposal. However, everyone has made it clear that the Immortal Realm Lord is not allowed to approach here. If an Immortal Realm Lord takes away the eternal treasure, it will be difficult to deal with. Although the possibility of the Immortal Realm Lord taking away the eternal treasure is too small, it should not be ignored. Of course, if other immortal realms have the same combat power as Yi Tian, they are naturally eligible to participate, but there is only an Immortal Realm Lord like Yi Tian in the space-time territory. Next, Yi Tian and the 5 legendary lords sealed off this area, not allowing any creatures to approach here. And Yi Tian also arranged several copies of the body in the Dark Forbidden Area to prevent the Dark Fog Lord from running back and destroying the Dark Forbidden Area. This possibility is very small, but Yi Tian also has to take precautions. Yi Tian knows that if you want to take the eternal treasure, you must understand the corresponding eternal way, and you must enter the door before you can take the eternal treasure. Otherwise, you need the strength of the legendary realm, and none of the legendary realm lords present are like that. Strength can only honestly comprehend the eternal way. However, the 5 legendary lords still tried it. Boom! The 5 legendary lords rushed to the location of the eternal treasure, but after flying for a long time, they were not close to the eternal treasure. Afterwards, they sat down honestly and comprehended the eternal way one after another. Obviously, they also know how to obtain the eternal treasure. After all, they have been the lords of the legendary realm for a long time, and the inheritance they have obtained is unknown. It is not surprising to know this secret. Yi Tian also immediately began to comprehend the eternal Tao contained in this eternal treasure, and saw that Yi Tian's will was constantly approaching the eternal treasure, comprehend the breadth of the eternal treasure, and thus comprehend its eternal Tao. After a long time, Yi Tian roughly knew what the eternal Tao contained in this leaf-like eternal treasure. Wansheng. Divergence. These are the 2 eternal realms. The eternal Tao of Wansheng is an eternal Tao that can restore wounds, heal the wounds of all things, or restore the vitality of all things, and differentiation is a path that can differentiate into a false clone, similar to the Dark Fog Shadow body of the Dark Fog Lord. In fact, the effect is similar. If you cultivate the eternal way of differentiation to the extreme, you can permanently form a true clone. For many eternal realms, if you want to add a clone, you can cultivate and differentiate eternal Tao. However, the real entry into the eternal Tao is difficult, and it is naturally even more difficult to cultivate to the extreme. It's still practicing the eternal way of life. If you can cultivate it to the entry level, you can also take this eternal treasure. Yi Tian decided. Yi Tian's realm is only the immortal realm. Compared with the legendary realm lord, the realm is much lower, but he has a lot of legendary ancestors and immortal ancestors, so he has a huge advantage in understanding the eternal way. Moreover, Yi Tian can also use the cloned body to study the eternal way of life, and use his own body for experiments, which can also increase the speed of enlightenment. Therefore, Yi Tian has full confidence that he can take the lead in comprehending the eternal Tao of Wansheng, thus taking away this eternal treasure. And the 5 legendary realm lords are destined to have a double happiness. Time passed slowly, and 10,000 eternal years passed in the sea of unconsciously. And Yi Tian and the 5 legendary lords have been practicing here for so long. The 5 legendary lords seem to be very patient. Perhaps for them, the mere 10,000 eternal years is only a short period of time. Introduction to Eternal Tao Cultivation. But what they didn't know was that Yi Tian had really started the cultivation of the Eternal Tao of Wansheng. The eternal way of life, get started. Yi Tian opened his eyes with joy in his eyes. Immediately, he walked towards the eternal treasure. The power of the eternal Tao spread out, and the endless time and space were pushed away by Yi Tian. Soon, Yi Tian walked in front of the eternal treasure and grabbed it with one hand. The leaf-like eternal treasure fell in front of Yi Tian and truly became something in Yi Tian's hands. It is indeed an eternal treasure. There was a 99% possibility before, but now that I have it in my hand, it is 100% certain. Whoa whoa whoa, a copy of Yi Tian's body came here, which is to ensure the safety of the eternal treasure. After all, in the face of an eternal treasure, he is not afraid that the other 5 legendary lords will not be able to resist. If he really does it, he can't compete, so he can only escape from the Source Sea with his relatives. But the 5 legendary lords will have to face his revenge in the future. What? The Endless Lord took the eternal treasure. How could he comprehend one of the eternal Tao of eternal life and the eternal Tao of differentiation so quickly? We are the lords of the legendary realm, and we are far from the beginning of cultivation. Unless he has come into contact with the eternal Tao of myriad lives and the eternal Tao of differentiation before, so this time he is so quick to get started. At this time, the 5 legendary realm lords showed no concern, and could not wait to go up and snatch them immediately. But they were very hesitant. If they robbed it, they would completely offend Yi Tian, and they might not even be able to snatch it. In case Yi Tian escaped and waited for Yi Tian to break through to the legendary realm lord and return to the space-time territory, that would be their doomsday. After all, Yi Tian is too evil. They have to admit that they are far inferior to Yi Tian in terms of talent, and money is good aptitude. Therefore, they dare not take risks. Congratulations to the Endless Lord. Lord Binghan took the lead in congratulating, and her congratulations showed her attitude, that she completely gave up taking the eternal treasure, and recognized that this eternal treasure belonged to Yi Tian. Afterwards, several other legendary realm lords congratulated Yi Tian and did not do anything. After all, the cost of doing it was too high. They were legendary realm lords, the real controllers of the space-time territory, and there was no need to take such a risk because they were eternal and immortal. Now Yuanai has given birth to the first eternal treasure, and maybe there will be a second or even third eternal treasure in the future, maybe it will fall on their heads. So, they resisted the idea of hands-on. Thank you all. Yi Tian thanked and breathed a sigh of relief. After all, if he didn't tear his face, the dark forbidden area and his family would be safe, otherwise he would not be able to guarantee their safety. Chapter 1697 Jalan Leaf. Auxiliary Eternal Treasure. The 5 legendary realm lords did not stay in the Source Sea for too long, otherwise, when they saw Yi Tian, they would think of the eternal treasure, and they would not be able to help themselves, and they would tear their faces with Yi Tian. Therefore, they are still out of sight and out of heart, and they directly choose to leave the Source Sea and return to their own eternal space-time territory. However, they have dispatched a lot of subordinates to settle in the space-time territory. If the Source Sea continues to give birth to the eternal treasure, they will be able to know it immediately. Dark Forbidden Area. Yi Tian is studying the eternal treasure that he has just obtained. Through refining, he learned that this eternal treasure is called Jalan Yi. From the point of view of power, Jalan Leaf is much better than this eternal treasure. It is comparable to the Qingshu Bell of Jingshu. The use of Jalan Leaves is not small, it can save lives, and it can also help Yi Tian escape, which is an eternal treasure of the auxiliary class. This kind of eternal treasure is very popular, even rarer than the attack-type eternal treasure. Especially when exploring certain ruins, life-saving is particularly important. And sometimes it is useless to have a stronger attack power, and it is almost impossible to survive in the face of desperation. Jalan Leaves can allow Yi Tian to protect nearly 843 particles of his body when facing a fatal attack. This method almost makes him immortal, unless the enemy he encounters is too powerful. Moreover, Jalan Leaves can make Yi Tian turn into thousands to escape, similar to the light of nothingness method of 5th order nothingness beasts. Too late to stop. And Chia Blue Leaf also has such an effect, even better, faster, and even does not need to self-mutilate, and the nihilistic light of the void beast is actually a means of self-mutilation, although it can save lives, but the cost is very high, so the 5th order nothingness, unless the beast is facing a desperate situation, it will not use it. So to a certain extent, Jalan Leaves are too bad. Yes, primordial order can enhance my strength, while Jalan Yi can enhance my life-saving ability. With these 2 eternal treasures in hand, even if the 5 legendary lords of the space-time territory are besieging me, I will not be afraid. Yi Tian thought to himself. In addition, if Yi Tian's copy body is to be tested in the future, with the help of Jalan Yi, it will not collapse easily, and it will be more helpful to Yi Tian. The next goal is to cultivate to the level of the legendary lord as soon as possible. If you can't reach the level of the legendary lord in one day, it will be difficult to crush other legendary lords. Therefore, Yi Tian worked hard to cultivate, improve the degree of fusion of will and body, and let his cultivation base continue to approach the extreme of the 9-step immortal lord. Once he reaches the extreme of the 9-step immortal lord, he can go to the legendary realm. With the help of primordial order, Yi Tian is naturally getting closer and closer to the extreme of the 9-step immortal lord. In fact, he is not too far from the extreme of the 9-step immortal lord, but the closer he gets to the limit, the more difficult it will be. Promote. For example, the degree of fusion is 96 to 97% is a huge difficulty, and 98 to 99% is also a huge difficulty. The so-called extreme is 99,999. This is infinitely close to 100% fusion, and it even looks like 100% fusion, but there is still a slight difference in the lack of fusion. This is the pinnacle of the 9-step immortal lord, and it is also a shackle, and even many 9-step immortals. The lord of the extreme realm can't find the last trace of unintegrated place, and he doesn't know how to attack the lord of the legendary realm. This is the so-called bottleneck. If it is found, it will break the shackles and be promoted to the lord of the legendary realm, but there are too few who can really break through. But Yi Tian is still very confident in himself. He believes that he can break through 100%. In the blink of an eye, 500,000 eternal years have passed. At this time, the degree of fusion of Yi Tian's will and body has reached more than 90%, and it is difficult to estimate the degree to which it has reached. However, Yi Tian felt that there was still a slight gap between him and the peak lord of the 9-step immortal realm, because he could continue to integrate his will in his body, but it was very slow. Finally, after another 50,000 eternity years passed, Yi Tian felt that his whole body was completely merged with his will, but he still did not break through to the legendary realm lord realm. At this time, Yi Tian knew that he had already reached the pinnacle of the 9-step immortal realm lord, and he only needed the last trace to break through to the legendary realm lord level. For the next long time, Yi Tian did not make any progress and seemed to be stopped by a bottleneck. But Yi Tian was not impatient at all. Each of the cloned bodies was cultivating in their own way, preparing for the attack on the legendary realm lord. This day, Yi Tian communicated with Lord Binghan on Taoism. Among the 5 legendary lords, Yi Tian had a good relationship with Lord Binghan. Lord Ice Letter, how can an immortal lord reach the legendary lord realm? Yi Tian asked. Lord Bingxin smiled and said, it seems that the endless lord has cultivated to the extreme of the 9-step immortal lord. This speed makes me ashamed. As for how to attack the legendary lord, each legendary lord has a different way of breaking through. Some experienced endless battles, and finally realized it, and broke through to the legendary lord. Some took some kind of eternal kuaibao, thus completing the breakthrough. Some experienced long years of ascetic cultivation, and broke through unknowingly. And I entered a spectacle, fell into the epiphany of the long years, and completely completed the last trace of fusion, breaking through to the lord of the legendary realm. If I give any advice, I really don't know what to say. Quote. It turns out that, thank you Lord Binghan for your guidance. Yi Tian thanked. After a while, Yi Tian's discussion with Lord Binghan ended. This day, Yi Tian is cultivating, pondering how to break through the legendary realm lord. Suddenly, he thought of something. The legendary realm lords on this side of the space-time territory, the direction of cultivation is to integrate the will and the innate eternal rules, so that they can grow step by step and finally attack the legendary realm lords. In fact, his achievements in the fusion of will and innate eternal rules surpassed many legendary lords. If he forcibly fuses with the body through the power of the fusion of the will and the innate eternal rules, it is equivalent to stimulating the body. This is a forced fusion, but it is possible to find the last trace of the body's inability. In that case, he can break through to the realm of the legendary lord. Chapter 1698 Breakthrough to become a legendary lord. Closed place. Yi Tian started to forcibly fuse with the body with the power of the rules of will, which is equivalent to merging the 3 aspects of the body, the will, and the innate eternal rules. At this time, Yi Tian also carried out this kind of cultivation. A strange force seemed to be born, but Yi Tian's body couldn't bear it any longer, and it seemed that it was about to burst. At this time, Yi Tian has been paying attention to the situation in the body. If the body is turned into an endless particle world, at this moment these 3 forces are intertwined in the countless particle worlds, which is very clear. As time passed, Yi Tian's body collapsed a little bit, but he didn't care about it at all, and was still carefully observing the changes in his body. I don't know how long it has passed, and suddenly Yi Tian noticed something strange in his body. Somewhere in the willpower source C barrier in the body, the will here is not 100% integrated with the body, there is still a slight difference, but this is in the will source C, covered by countless willpower, it is difficult to detect at all. But now in the process of forcibly merging the power of the will and the body, this place is exposed. Boom! Yi Tian's body burst, but he has already found out the problem. After that, he only needs to completely integrate this place to break the shackles and completely integrate his will and body 100%, which is equivalent to stepping into the legendary realm. The realm of the Lord. Ontology. Let's start. Yi Tian found a position and began to fuse his will with his body. This last point was difficult to fuse, and he couldn't even feel that it had not fused. There was almost no reaction at the beginning. If he was definitely like this, he would have given up long ago. As time passed, Yi Tian slowly sensed the problem here, and tried his best to integrate his will and body. In this way, one robbery after another passed, but this last trace was extremely stubborn. After 6 eternity years passed, Yi Tian finally completely integrated this last trace. When the fusion was successful, Yi Tian's whole body began to transform. Boom! The jump has begun. Yi Tian's immortal body is transforming into a legendary body, the power of eternity is also skyrocketing, and the willpower is soaring. Endless source energy poured into his body from the source sea, prompting him to break through faster. At the same time, the legendary lords of the space-time territory sensed Yi Tian's breakthrough. After all, the movement was too loud, and they didn't make any cover-up. It was difficult for them to know. The endless ancestor broke through like this. Lord Ice Letter was shocked. Before, Yi Tian came to her to ask her for advice on the breakthrough, and she couldn't give any advice, and even thought that Yi Tian would stay at this level for at least tens of millions of eternity years or even hundreds of millions of eternity years, which was quite normal. If you are unlucky, it is not impossible to stay in the immortal realm Lord all the time. But only a few eternity years have passed, Yi Tian broke through, this speed is simply too fast. The other legendary realm lords were even more shocked, because there was no sign before, and they didn't even know that Yi Tian had reached the level of impacting the legendary realm lord, as if suddenly, Yi Tian broke through, everything was too sudden. Yi Tian's breakthrough was not a very good thing for them. Although the strength of the space-time territory has increased, for them personally, there is a legendary lord far beyond them, and their actions will be restricted in the future. For fear of offending Yi Tian. However, they couldn't stop Yi Tian from breaking through, everything was a foregone conclusion. After a long time, Yi Tian's realm stabilized. My strength has increased so much. Yi Tian was extremely excited. At this moment, his body is more than 10 times stronger, his eternal power is dozens of times stronger, and his willpower is also several times stronger. Today, even if he does not use the primordial order, he can easily hang or even kill the Dark Mist Lord. If he borrows the primordial order, he is afraid that he can kill the Dark Mist Lord in a short time. More importantly, he has now become a legendary lord, able to fuse the will with the innate eternal rules, and the will itself is fused with the body, so he can try to fuse the three forces together. At that time, he can create his own legendary eternal skills. Once he masters the legendary eternal skill, his strength will be greatly improved. Of course, primordial order can now increase his legendary eternal skill to the point where it is comparable to the weaker legendary eternal skill, but it is definitely not as good as the legendary eternal skill. In short, during the period when he just broke through to the legendary lord, his strength will be greatly improved. So, Yi Tian continued to cultivate and improve, but other cloned bodies showed up. The first time, the 5 legendary lords of the space-time territory came to the blood and bone territory to congratulate Yi Tian. Congratulations to the Endless Lord for entering the Legendary Lord. Congratulations to the Endless Lord for entering the Legendary Lord. Congratulations to the Endless Lord for entering the Legendary Lord. Ask for flowers. A Legendary Realm Lord congratulated. Thank you all. Yi Tian was also quite happy, and immediately invited 5 Legendary Lords into his palace, and a banquet began. During the period, everyone discussed Taoism and exchanged, and it took a long time to disperse. Yi Tian also gained a lot from communicating with these 5 legendary realm lords. He used to know a little about the division of legendary realm lords. The division is clearer. Immortal lords will be divided into 1 step to 9 immortal lords according to the degree of fusion of will and body, but the division of legendary lords is different. The legendary lord of the time and space territory, the will and the body are fused, the body and the innate eternal rules are fused. It is reasonable to say that the will and the innate eternal rules are also fused, but this is not the case. It is like an egg with 2 yolks. Eggs is the body, and the 2 yellows are the will and the innate eternal rules. Point 0. But there is no limit to the will and the innate eternal rules themselves. Even if the will inside the body is fused with the innate eternal rules, it can still continue to be integrated and there is no end. However, once the will in the body particles is integrated with the innate eternal rules, such a legendary realm lord is called the initial realm legendary lord. If the will inside the body and the innate eternal rules are all integrated, such a legendary realm the lord is called the legendary lord of perfection, if the will and the innate eternal rules continue to be integrated. Although it cannot be fused with the body, after all, the body has been fused, but the innate eternal rules of the will domain are infinite, so that endless power of will rules can be accumulated. When the power of will rules is accumulated to a certain extent, the domain of will rules can be formed. Lords are called domain-level legendary lords. For many legendary lords, domain-level legendary lords are almost the pinnacle of legendary lords, but there is another level of legendary lords, that is, the legendary lord of transcendence. As for how to achieve this level, the 5 legendary lords do not know. Ordinary legendary lords, initial legendary lords, perfection legendary lords, domain legendary lords, and transcendental legendary lords. This is the division of the 5 realms of legendary lords. And the legendary lord who just broke through belongs to the ordinary legendary lord, and Yi Tian is not actually a legendary lord, because he has not yet carried out the fusion of the 3 powers, but for him, this is easy to complete. After all, he has long been thus began the fusion of will and innate eternal rules. Therefore, it doesn't take long for him to become one of the legendary lords of the initial realm. Chapter 1699 Legendary Eternal Skill. Yi Tian has been stabilizing the realm for 10 eternity years after breaking through to the legendary lord, silently improving his eternal power and physical strength, and did not attack the legendary lord of the initial realm. Soon, 10 eternal years passed. So, Yi Tian began to impact the initial realm. The gap between ordinary legendary lords and the initial lords is not big, but compared with the top existences in the initial realm, the gap between ordinary legendary lords is too great. For other legendary lords, how to integrate the will and the innate eternal rules is an extremely difficult step. Legendary lords such as the Ice Letter Lord have not taken this step, so they will continue to look for various wills and innate eternal rules. Integrate the practice of secret techniques, so as to seek a breakthrough point. Among the 5 legendary lords in the space-time territory, Yi Tian estimates that only the Lord of the Holy Peak has really broken through to the initial state, but it is only a suspicion, because the Lord of the Holy Peak hides the 860 deeply. If he does not show his true strength, with Yi Tian's current cultivation realm, it is difficult to penetrate his realm at a glance. Yi Tian began to fuse the will, the body and the innate eternal rules, and this process did not encounter any shackles at all, and soon the 3 aspects began to fuse, resulting in a higher level of power. There is no description and definition of this power in the space-time territory and the source sea, but in the boundless sea, the power after the fusion of the body, the will and the innate eternal rules is called the eternal force, which is a more powerful form of the eternal force. High-level version. The eternal force was born, and Yi Tian's body underwent a slight change, but due to the low degree of fusion, this transformation was not very obvious. This level of fusion is the same as the level of the immortal realm lord, and it is also divided into 100%. Once the fusion reaches 100%, it is equivalent to the legendary lord of the perfection realm. From 0 to 99%, it belongs to the legendary lord of the initial realm. Since Yi Tian's own will and the innate eternal rules are a lot of fusion, so at the beginning of the initial realm legendary lord realm, the cultivation is very easy, and there are no bottlenecks. It only took less than an eternity year. Yi Tian's cultivation level reached the 3rd step of the legendary lord of the initial realm, that is, the fusion degree of body, will and innate eternal rules reached 30%, and 30% of the eternal force was born inside the body. This kind of strength is naturally much stronger than the legendary lord of the initial realm who just broke through. Moreover, Yi Tian is also trying to create a legendary eternal skill, and it has a prototype, and it is not far from the real creation. This day, Yi Tian came to Moshan prison, and he was going to challenge those legendary realm lord prisoners in Moshan prison. Not only can he fight against these legendary lords and prisoners to enhance his combat experience, but he also hopes to gain good opportunities from them, so it is no problem to send a clone body to fight here for a long time. So, Yi Tian entered the prison of one of the legendary lord prisoners. This legendary realm lord is named Shuai Lord. Yi Tian entered the prison of Shuai Lord and met this Shuai Lord. Legendary lord of the initial realm. Yi Tian saw through the other party's cultivation realm. To be more specific, this Shuai Lord's cultivation is in the 5th step of the initial stage legendary lord, and his body contains 50% of the eternal force, which is higher than Yi Tian's cultivation. However, a high cultivation base does not mean that the combat power is stronger. For example, Yi Tian's foundation is very strong, and he has created many top legendary eternal skills, and he is even about to create legendary eternal skills. However, Yi Tian did not mobilize the two eternal treasures, the primordial order and the Jialan Yi, but instead relied on his own strength to fight against the opponent. Fighting with the Lord of Shuai, Yi Tian found that the opponent's use of the eternal force had reached a very consummate level, and it was worth Yi Tian to learn. In addition, the Lord of Shuai also possesses many top legendary eternal skills, and is proficient in various eternal ways. Without the help of primordial order and Jialan Yi, Yi Tian could only barely compete with the opponent, and it would be difficult to completely defeat the opponent. Yi Tian also knew that the legendary lords who had been imprisoned here for endless years were not simple, so he didn't find it strange at all. In this way, in the long years to come, Yi Tian's duplicate body found one after another the prisoners of the legendary realm lords, with the help of their hands to hone his combat power and the running in of the legendary realm lord level, the use of the eternal force, more skilled. After many eternity years, Yi Tian's cultivation has not improved much, but his combat power can already suppress the Lord of Shuai. Before you know it, hundreds of thousands of eternal years have passed. After going through such long years of ascetic cultivation, Yi Tian's cultivation has greatly increased. Now, he has reached the 7th step of the Lord of the initial realm. The whole body contains 70% of the eternal force, and the strength of his body is far beyond that. In addition, he also created legendary eternal skills, and there are more than one, but they are basically perfected based on the previous top legendary eternal skills. For example, Void Step, Billion Void, Void Real Body, Will Wall Light, Will Void Slashing Sword have all become legendary eternal skills. With the help of the primordial order, these legendary eternal skills can all be increased to a certain extent, and using the primordial order can form a field of will rules similar to the legendary lord of the realm, and the strength will naturally become stronger. With Yi Tian's current strength, he can easily suppress any initial state legendary lord. My regular combat power should be comparable to that of the legendary lord of the perfection realm. With the help of the primordial order and the two eternal treasures of Jialan Yi, I may even hope to compete with the legendary lord of the domain realm. Yi Tian said confidently. Even in the boundless sea, there are not many legendary lords of the realm, and they can definitely be regarded as one-sided overlords. Somewhere in the void, a group of people are moving quickly here, and one of them is the Dark Mist Lord Yi Tian knows. At this moment, the Dark Mist Lord is respectfully communicating with a legendary lord. Master Qin Yu, in a short while, we will be able to reach the space-time territory of Yuanai, said the Dark Mist Lord. The legendary lord known as Young Master Qin Yu said coldly, Dark Fog Lord, you said that your source sea is very weak. There are only 6 legendary lords, and 1 or even 2 eternal treasures. If this news is if there is a mistake, I can't forgive you for delaying my 5.8 for so long. 1. Master Qin Yu, I don't dare to deceive you. What I said is true, I just hope that Master Qin Yu can help me kill that Lord of the 9-step immortal realm. Lord Darkmist said quickly. Don't worry, it's just an immortal lord, I can kill him with a wave of my hand. Master Qin Yu said confidently. The Dark Mist Lord knew that Qin Yu was not bragging, but really had such strength. Qin Yu is a legendary lord at the peak of the initial realm of Boundless Sea, and he is only 1 step away from the perfection realm. Moreover, he also has an eternal treasure on his body, and his own strength is stronger than the ordinary perfection realm. He accidentally found Wulianhai and was caught by Qin Yu, and then he exchanged the news of Yuanai and the eternal treasure for his life, and now he has completely taken refuge in Qin Yu. Lord Endless, when I come to the Source Sea, you will be dead. Dark Mist Lord secretly said. Chapter 1700 Countless people come from the sea. I didn't expect to find another weak eternal sea. Qin Yu was quite excited. The infinite sea is the eternal sea, and the source sea is also the eternal sea. And he didn't know more than 1 eternal sea, but they were all very powerful. It was the first time that he had seen the eternal sea with only a few legendary realm lords as the strongest. Such an eternal sea is bound to be very young. Although there may not be many resources born, once you control such an eternal sea and develop your own strength, even if some precious resources such as eternal treasures are born in the future, they can all fall into your hands. This is the big chance. What's more, it is possible to obtain 2 eternal treasures. As the powerful Qin family in the Boundless Sea, there are not many eternal treasures, and as the young master of the Qin family, he has only been given 1 eternal treasure. If he can obtain a few more eternal treasures, his strength will be greatly increase. I'm lucky this time. Fortunately, I caught the Dark Mist Lord in time. Otherwise, this opportunity would not have fallen into my hands. Those who are in the Perfection Realm and even the Legendary Realm Lords would probably want to come to this 29 Li. Qin Yu secretly said. From the mouth of the Dark Fog Lord, the legendary lords in the Source Sea time and space territory are relatively weak, almost all of them are ordinary legendary lords, and at most there is only one legendary lord in the initial realm. And this time, he brought 18 ordinary legendary lords, 3 initial realm lords, and his own top initial realm legendary lord who was comparable to the Perfection Realm legendary lord, enough to occupy the Source Sea and make many eternal realms surrender. After completely occupying the Source Sea, he will build a space-time ladder to connect the Boundless Sea, and then it will be very easy to travel between the Source Sea and the Boundless Sea. He can even dispatch strong people from the Qin family to guard here at any time to ensure that this place will not be blocked by other forces. Takeaway. Another time has passed. This day, the Dark Mist Lord brought Qin Yu and these legendary lords to an area outside the space-time territory, where one could perceive the space-time territories. It really is another eternal sea, but its structure is somewhat different from that of the infinite sea. The resources of the Yuan-I are mainly concentrated in the space-time territory, and the source energy of the Yuan-I is used to support the space-time territory, while our infinite sea itself has nurtured countless infinite islands, and the infinite islands float on the infinite sea. 1. Qin Yu murmured, "Whoa whoa whoa." These legendary realm lords instantly crossed this void area and came to the space-time territory. At this time, Qin Yu ordered, "Dark Fog Lord, take me to your Lord Alliance headquarters." The Dark Mist Lord whispered, "Master Qin Yu, shouldn't we kill Yi Tian? This person has 5 clones, once he escapes, I'm afraid it will be bad. Do you want to disobey my order? Besides, a mere immortal lord is not worth mentioning. If I deal with my affairs, I will help you kill him. If you talk nonsense again, you will know the consequences." Qin Yu said impatiently. The Dark Mist Lord's expression changed drastically, and he didn't dare to speak. Although Qin Yu broke his promise, his strength was too weak to resist Qin Yu at all. Even if Qin Yu really didn't help him, he would be helpless. In fact, Qin Yu didn't care about the so-called promises at all. After all, the Dark Mist Lord was of little value to him now. However, Yi Tian is definitely going to kill. After all, Yi Tian probably contains an eternal treasure that can increase his strength, otherwise he will not be able to defeat the Dark Mist Lord of the legendary lord at the immortal level. However, he had to control the alliance of lords first, and then deal with Yi Tian. In addition, as for the eternal treasure born in the Source Sea, as to whose hands it fell into, as long as he controls the Lord Alliance here, he can find out at that time. Right now, controlling the alliance of lords is the most important thing. Whoa whoa, Qin Yu took many legendary lords to the headquarters of the Alliance of Lords. Boom, the aura of the legendary realm lords filled the air, and all of a sudden, many eternity realms in the Lord Alliance were terrified. At this time, the Lord of Shangfeng, Lord of Binghan, Lord of Taihuang, Lord of Aurora, Lord of 6 Suns appeared one after another. So many legendary lords. The expression of the Lord of the Holy Peak changed dramatically, with an unbelievable look on his face. How has the space-time territory ever had so many legendary lords? And they are all raw faces, definitely not from the space-time territory. Moreover, Lord Holy Peak also met an acquaintance among these legendary lords, Lord of Darkmist. It can almost be guessed that these legendary lords were brought by the Dark Fog Lords, and they may come from places similar to the Source Sea, such as the Boundless Sea. After all, there are several relics from the Infinite Sea in the space-time territory, so these people are very likely to come from the Infinite Sea. You are the 5 legendary lords of the Origin Sea Time and Space Territory Lords Alliance. From today onwards, your Time and Space Territory Lords Alliance will serve me. I come from the Qin family of the Boundless Sea. My name is Qin Yu, also known as the True Lord Yu, but I prefer people to call me Young Master Qin Yu. Qin Yu said, "What works for you?" The faces of the 5 legendary lords immediately showed warm anger, but due to the strength of Qin Yu and others, they did not act rashly. At this time, Lord Ice Letter informed Yi Tian secretly. The time and space territory is not without the power of a battle. After all, these legendary lords who came from Infinite Sea 860 did not come with their clones, and they must have only one body. And the 5 lords of the space-time territory plus Yi Tian's cloned body are no weaker than Qin Yu's side in terms of numbers. As long as Yi Tian can defeat Qin Yu, he will have the right to speak. In short, it was impossible to serve Qin Yu. As the Lord of the Legendary Realm, the Lord of Ice Letter and others do not want to serve others. Blood and bone territory. Lord Ice Letter's clone came here, and Yi Tian sensed it for the first time. Lord Binghan, you are a little flustered, what happened? Yi Tian asked. Lord Binghan hurriedly said. Something has happened, a group of legendary lords came from the boundless sea, including the Lord of the Dark Mist. We guessed that the Lord of the Dark Mist found the immeasurable sea. We have been looking for a long time and have not found the immeasurable sea. I didn't expect the Dark Mist Lord to find it. Now, these legendary lords of boundless sea should have been brought by the Dark Mist Lord. The leader of the legendary lord is Qin Yu and the title is Lord Zhen Yu. We are not opponents. You delay for a while, I'll be there right away. Yi Tian said. It's a matter of relationship, too. This time, I'm afraid I need to explode the real strength. Yi Tian secretly said.